Fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you!
The movies, the internet stuff is so violent. It's so incredible.
I'm really worried about it just because the consumption of these violent video games has been going up continuously since the early 90s, and yet youth violence has been going down.
If you look at juvenile crime statistics, which have gone down dramatically over the past 15 years, it really doesn't seem to bear what the American pediatric
You can pick up guns, knives. You can now choose to punch, kick, headbutt people, stab them.
Yep, there's my.
Whoa. Okay, that's a hell of a way to open up the podcast. Tim coming in like that. So anyway, everybody, welcome to tonight's episode of Tuned In Live. I'm trying to speak as low as I can because apparently I'm loud on Empire's End and I'm echoing. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's episode. This is a special Tuned In Live episode where we're doing movie reviews and talking about a trilogy of movies directed by the one and only Rob Zombie. If you guys are unclear or unknown of who Rob Zombie is, he was the lead singer in the band White Zombie in the 80s and the 90s, and then he kind of broke apart from that, did his own thing, going by his name Rob Zombie. He's very popular for songs such as Living Dead Girl and other songs. I can't even think of them at the top of my head. I'm trying to think of Dracula, all that stuff.
Summer Kiss 1965.
Yep. So, in the early 2000s, he got into the director's chair, and he wanted to direct and make a bunch of movies. You know, of course, one of them, one of his first directions was House of a Thousand Corpses. But before we go into depth with these three movies, we want to pay homage to the late Sid Haig, who passed away, sadly, September 21st, 2019, at the age of 80. And the personal life and death, November 3rd, 2007, he married Susan L. Oberg, his wife. He is survived by his wife. In early September 2019, Sid Haig was hospitalized after falling at his home in Los Angeles. While he was recovering, he suffered from a lung infection after vomiting in his sleep. He passed away September 21st from complications of COPD, Aspergillus pneumonia, I guess I'm pronouncing that right, a small bowel obstruction, and cardiopulmonary arrest at the age of 80. This poor guy was going through a lot.
Gee.
And he had a lot of roles spanning all the way back to 1960. There was even a role he did, and I've seen it recently somewhere on here. Okay, like television-wise, he was on TV shows such as the original Batman, The Lucy Show, Mission Impossible. Mike, you should know this. He was actually in an episode of Star Trek. The episode The Return of the Archons, or Archons, I guess that's how you pronounce it.
Which one is that? The original Star Trek or?
Yeah, this is the original series, 1967.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to watch that episode. I'm going to see if he's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I've actually seen a credit to that. I didn't watch the episode, but I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the first lawgiver, as that's his role in the show, lawgiver. But it's the episode, The Return of the Archons. I guess that's how you call it, or Archons.
Argons?
Yeah. Archons.
Archons.
Archons, there you go. And he was in shows like Get Smart, Charlie's Angels, Fantasy Island. He was even in an episode of The Dukes of Hazzard in 1982. The episode Miss Tisdale and the Lamb. I think I actually seen that episode. I remember seeing him in there. MacGyver and such. But he's also been in a lot of movie roles since the 1960s. He was even in a James Bond film. Diamonds Are Forever. His role was the Slumber Inc. attendant. So he's kind of like like an extra in that movie. But he was in a James Bond film, usually like smaller roles. But he was also in a movie, Foxy Brown. Came out in '74. And a lot of these roles are usually like action-oriented, sci-fi, or horror, but he's very big with horror roles. He was even in the movie Jackie Brown, so he was in Foxy Brown and Jackie Brown. Horror roles starting out in like 2003, House of a Thousand Corpses. And I remember this like yesterday because Tim and I, we were in a computing class together. And I remember him sitting there talking about how he was going to go see the movie that weekend. Yeah, fucking in the UFO. Yeah, that was another song that Rob Zombie did. Yep.
Yep. He was in that one. Then he was on the actually one of the oh damn, he was on one of the latest albums too with Sherry Moon.
But movies that Sid was in, I don't remember him being in Kill Bill Volume 2. Apparently he was in that. But he was more popular up and toward the end with his roles in Jackie Brown, House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects. He was in a remake of Night of the Living Dead 3D. He played Chester Chesterfield in Rob Zombie's reboot of Halloween. He was the Gravekeeper. He reprised his role as Captain Spaulding in the animated comedy horror movie The Haunted World of El Super Beasto, which came out in 2009. I've briefly seen that. But just about every movie that was directed by Rob Zombie, he was in. With those, Lords of Salem, Halloween.
From what I understand, him and Rob Zombie have really good.
Yeah, definitely. He was even in the 2017 movie Death House. I've yet to watch that, but that's supposed to be like the horror film with a lot of the old, super horror icons like Kane Hodder, Gunnar Hansen, and all them. Bill Moseley's in that too. Tony Todd.
Oh wow!
I think that's on Netflix right now. And then of course, yeah, it's called Death House. It's supposed to be a lot of these serial killers that are locked up in a prison or something, and they got to fight to survive. I haven't. I haven't watched it yet.
Bill Moseley's in it? I didn't know that. I'm going to definitely check that out. I'm starting to become a big.
I think I might watch that tonight.
Yeah, let me go into that a little bit here. Okay, this is a 2017 American horror movie. It features the ensemble cast of horror icons Kane Hodder, Barbara Crampton. What movie was she in? Oh, she was from Reanimator that came out in 1985. You got Bill Moseley, Dee Wallace. She's like a veteran of the horror genre. Dee Wallace is in there. Tony Todd, Camille Keaton. She was in the movie I Spit on Your Grave. That was another interesting movie.
Good movie.
Yeah. Michael Berryman. Oh, if you guys remember him, he was from The Hills Have Eyes, the original Hills Have Eyes. I think he was in, I don't think, was he in House of a Thousand? No, I think he was in Devil's Rejects, too. I can't remember. Let me see. Yeah, he was in Devil's Rejects. He played Clavon. He was, Charlie's assistant. It was in Devil's, yeah, he was in Devil's Rejects. He was Charlie's assistant. Charlie, who was played by, what was his name?
I don't know, but he's a hell of a good actor, too. I've seen him in a couple movies. I don't know who it is.
Yeah. And, of course, the final movie that Sid Haig was in, of course, was 3 from Hell. Let me back out here. Yeah, 3 from Hell, which was his last debut. There's actually 2 more movies that are coming out. One's coming out next year called Hanukkah. He has a role in that right now. That's post-production. Themis, whatever the fuck that word's called. I can't pronounce words tonight. But right now that's in post-production. Same thing with Abruptio, which is that's another horror movie coming out. So there's at least 2 more movies that are coming out within the next year that have Sid Haig in it. We're gonna check those out. But yeah, 3 from Hell was his last seen role so far, and he even came out and said that he knew this was going to be his last movie. He knew up front that this was going to be the end for him. even Rob Zombie didn't want to push him through. You know, they did a couple scenes in there. They changed the story up a bit, you know, to pretty much take his character off and then let him rest and get, you know, hopefully get better. But things got worse for him, and he ended up passing away.
Complications from car accident, correct?
It was several things: COPD, pneumonia, a small bowel obstruction, and cardiopulmonary arrest. 4 fucking things. Hey, Wolf over there in the chat. What's going on? He's over there on Facebook, man. But yeah, Sid Haig, you will always be remembered in, you know, the horror genre. Everybody's gonna remember you for the biggest role that puts you right there in the forefront. Captain Spaulding.
Captain Spaulding.
Everybody's favorite, you know, horror movie villain. Captain Spaulding, you know, when you watch any of these movies and you see, you know, Sherry Moon Zombie with her character Baby Firefly, or Bill Moseley with Otis, the one that stands out the most for these movies is Captain Spaulding, and that was one of my favorites from House of a Thousand Corpses. The way that movie opened up is just tremendous. Oh, yeah. It's hilarious. It's weird, but then it you know, there's like a twist in the beginning, and we're gonna get into that in a second. But yeah, rest in peace to Sid Haig. Great actor. You know, he had so many tremendous roles in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You will always be remembered by those who enjoy horror, enjoy your work. Passed away to age 80. Do you guys have any thoughts on his passing before we move on?
Yeah, I love Captain Spaulding, man. He was one of the, like you said, he was one of the good actors. I didn't know he went all through those movies, but now since I know Star Trek and even new Thousand Corpses, Devil Rejects, played an excellent role in. Yep. Hands down, Sid. Thank you very much for payment. In the horror movies, rest in peace, my friend. Until we all meet again.
Exactly. How about you, Tim?
They couldn't have picked a better guy to play that role, and we're all sad that he will never be able to reprise.
Exactly, and he was tremendously outstanding. You know, behind the scenes, everybody loved him. He was a very friendly guy. You know. You see him as a villain in these movies, but he was an outstanding guy. He was a really great guy. And I know Rob Zombie, he had a tremendous amount of fun working with him, and I know everybody on the set of those movies miss him tremendously.
He was excellent. He also loved his fans, too.
Yep. And it's sad, like, when I watched... 3 from Hell, and of course, granted, Tim knows there's going to be spoilers. You guys know there's going to be spoilers because we are talking about all 3 movies today. But just seeing him in 3 from Hell and the shape that he was in, you could tell
he was real bad.
He was very sickly. Like you could really feel for him. You know, he like, I know that movie takes like sometime later after The Devil's Rejects, but you know, he was the only one that looked very aged and very ill, and it's...
Oh, you could tell he was gray in his face a little bit.
Yeah.
How bad it was. Wow.
But yeah, he gave one last good, you know, performance in that movie, you know, just with him performing some dialogue in that movie, you know, the way he always had a way of saying things, you know. He had some great sayings. He had an amazing way of presenting himself in those movies. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. And he did his part justice. You know, I know a lot of people were heartbroken that, you know, he died. Even in the story, he died, but we'll get to that. So, rest in peace to Sid Haig. Yeah, go ahead.
That just shows his dedication to the franchise that he loved so much that even while being sick like he was, he wanted to finish it.
Exactly. And so we can move on to House of a Thousand Corpses, which is actually, even though growing up I was a fan of the Dukes of Hazzard TV show, I still love watching that show. Fuck everybody for taking that show off the air. You're a bunch of idiots. I mean, that's probably where I first seen him. And I remember seeing him in that role, which is pretty cool. But the first actual movie that I've seen him in was House of a Thousand Corpses. Now...
Oh, you know what? I just remembered what the music video of Rob Zombie
What is it?
called. So Numb.
I Feel So Numb. Yeah.
So Numb. That's the song.
Yeah, I love Rob Zombie's taste in music and when it comes to the films. Okay, now when you see a movie like House of a Thousand Corpses, Rob Zombie's vision when it comes to filming something, he enjoys that grindhouse feel of the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Because back then, you know, when horror was evolving, you know, into different subgenres and how the movies are presented, in the late 60s and the 70s, you had this grindhouse feel where the sex in the movie was upped, the violence and gore was upped in the movies, and it was just shock value for the time. You know, they even told you in theaters, you know, when you watch this movie, beware, you know, people have been known to leave the theater, you know, they were so shocked and appalled and scared. People were vomiting and fainting and all kind of stuff like that. And when you're a horror fan, that's what you want. You want that shock factor.
I didn't see it in theaters. I just saw it from just, you know, I saw my sister. I think it was my sister had the DVD on our sideball. You know, I'm just gonna watch this crap.
Yeah, but
just to see what it is.
And it's not just like the movies themselves. Like, you guys remember back in, I think it was 2008 or 9 when they released the last two Grindhouse movies, which was Death Proof and Planet Terror. And they were pretty gory, but they were really good. They had some good... The story was very good. The actors were pretty good. You know, you had Kurt Russell in Death Proof, and you had, oh god, what the hell was her name? The girl from Charmed. Tim should know what I'm talking about. She was in both of them.
There was 3 different girls in...
Well, she was a,
You're talking about the chick that played the fourth sister.
The girl in Planet Terror who had the gun for the leg.
Yeah, I can't remember her name, but I know exactly who you're talking about. She was the fourth sister.
Yeah, what was her name? Rose McGowan.
There you go.
I was going to say the redheaded one.
Yeah, she was in this. Yeah, this Grindhouse movie. They were exploitation films. If I look up the history of that real quick, because this is one of, I guess I could say, Rob Zombie's inspirations to film, especially when it came to his music videos. So, Grindhouse or Action House is an American term for theater that mainly shows exploitation films. Exploitation films are films that attempt to succeed financially by exploiting current trends, niche genres, or lurid content. They are generally low-quality films. They are sometimes critical attention and cult followings. Night of the Living Dead was one of them. You know, it was an exploitation film. According to historian David Church, this theater type was named after the Grind Policy, a film programming strategy dating back to the early 1920s, which continuously showed films at a cut rate ticket price that typically rose over the course of each day. So even like when it came to the Grindhouse films, like when you look at Planet Terror and Death Proof, they were showed back to back. They're 2 separate movies. One's directed by Quentin Tarantino. The other one was directed by Robert Rodriguez. And they were shown back to back. That's how movies were shown back in the 20s and 30s and 40s. You know, movies like that, they were shown as double features. So yeah, if you had to get up and go to the bathroom, you would have to take in between, when the movies were going, swapping. But they did come out like 2 separate DVDs back then when they came out. So that grindhouse feel, that's what Rob Zombie was going for, the shock value, and that's what it feels like when you watch at least House of a Thousand Corpses. It has that grindhouse feel. It makes you feel like you're watching a shitty horror movie from the 1970s. And the music that he infuses in the movies it's terrific. Not only does he has... Yeah, go ahead.
Let me interrupt you. In Dracula, he does have that 1920s feeling.
It does,
and
yeah.
Also, if you also watch Phantom Stranger, which is another one of my... This has a good beat. It also has that black and white in it, too.
Yeah, he's a big fan of those movies.
And, everybody thinks, oh, Rob Zombie's this bad guy. It doesn't matter. It's his fantasy of making horror. It gets him into that horror kind of thing. You know what I mean? You don't taste. Rob Zombie was just, he loves them. From what you wouldn't be singing America Band.
I'm even looking at right now what you were talking about. The development for House. Rob Zombie rose to fame as a member of the band White Zombie, as I stated before. His debut album, Hillbilly Deluxe, which came out in '98, was influenced by classic horror films, as were its music videos for Living Dead Girl and Super Beast. The album went on to a commercial success, blah, blah, blah. Prior to working on House of a Thousand Corpses, he had worked on... he did do some work for the animated movie Beavis and Butthead Do America. He directed music videos. Unsuccessfully attempted to write the script for The Crow Salvation. I heard that was a bomb.
How about that one?
But yeah, he had a love and interest for the older films. That was his love and passion, and he wanted to infuse that into his movies. He wanted to give it that style. Even his style of music for the time, like House of a Thousand Corpses, it had a very creepy, ominous feel to it, but then with certain music pieces were infused in certain areas. There's a scene in Corpses where 2 detectives, one is you got the sheriff, you got the deputy, and you got an off-duty officer who is visiting the Firefly's house. And they don't know it, but the family already knows that they're there, and they're already planning on taking them out. And then he has this song from the 1950s start playing, and everything's in slow motion. And it's just the way he makes the music, the way he puts it in there, and he gives it that feel with the music, with what's going on the screen, the acting. It all falls perfectly into place with each other. And that's what I love.
And on top of that, he was a big proponent for practical effects too.
Yep. And a lot of directors are like that. They don't like that CG bullshit. Because when you look back at older horror films, just practical effects had a good effect on the public when watching a movie. The CG, a lot of times you could tell when things are CG. CG it's too cheesy. And it got too out of hand ever since they did fucking Toy Story and all that shit, computer generated graphics. I'd say leave that shit to animated films. Leave it to Disney with the fucking CG. When you got a horror movie you want to put out there, don't ruin it with, computer generated graphics. Practical effects is the way to go. It's very effective, and it makes it look more lifelike. And that's what I like about Rob Zombie's movies. Like you said, he uses practical effects. That's his thing.
There's nothing that replaces the reaction from an actor or actress when you cut someone's arm off and they get splashed with real fake.
Yeah, and that's the effect that a lot of when you watch a lot of movies or when you go into behind the scenes with that, that's the big love right there for that kind of thing. So when it comes to like practical effects with the gore and the blood, that's all. He just does a tremendous job with making these films, and I know they have a lot of fun filming them too. Just like with going back with the music, the soundtrack, he picks that perfect. Even each movie, he writes a song for each movie. Like in House of a Thousand Corpses, he has the title track, which he even performed at what was it? It was one of the MTV heavy metal balls. It's on one of them soundtracks. His song "Pussy Lickers" is in there. You can hear that where they're going to the liquor store to get the alcohol for their event that night. So he has a couple of his songs in there. Same thing with Devil's Rejects, which is on the soundtrack. But one thing I love about the Devil's Rejects is...
Well, let's go to 1,000 Corpses.
Well, I know. Well, yeah, we'll get to that, because, when it comes to each one, I want to point out, like, the music and all.
Oh, yeah.
So, House of a Thousand Corpses, I'm going to start out by giving a synopsis of it. So, it opens up with Sid Haig and his Captain Spaulding character. He's having some dialogue with a customer who's in there. And it's hilarious. It's a hilarious exchange of dialogue between both characters. It's like, okay, I know I'm watching a horror film, but then it opens up with some good humor. It lightens it up a little bit. And then you got these two masked robbers who come in. It's a foiled robbery, and it really goes south for the robbers, because you're in for some shit. Him just standing there. Yeah, go ahead.
The funny thing I found out about that robbing, you don't see the old man doesn't even know exactly what's going on. He's in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And you're like, why in the hell would you want to rob the old man? And the old man knows both.
Well, he knew the one. He knew the one. And it's funny how the old guy, he's just calm the whole time.
Mm.
And you got Spaulding who's insulting him, the whole time. He's like, "Here, how about this? How about y'all take a bucket of chicken at home before I put my boot up your ass?"
Yeah, that was hilarious. But at that time, you didn't know who the good guy was or the bad guy, except for that, you knew exactly who the bad guy was, good guy.
Yeah,
that's what's interesting about this. And and then you have, I don't know who that one guy is. I don't think it was Kyle Gass. I think it was somebody else. The guy that was.
I don't remember. Wonder if they have it on the Wikipedia who that guy was that robbed him.
Because he's also in Rob Zombie's Feel So
Okay, so Chad Bannon and David Reynolds, or Reynolds, I don't know why I say Reynolds. David Reynolds appeared as the amateur robbers, Killer Carl and Richard Wick.
Wow.
He even said it was like, oh yeah, there was a little poem the old guy did. It was like a little rhyme, a nursery rhyme or something about Richard Wick had a little prick or something like that, and it really got to him. And he pulled
hilarious.
Yeah, he pulled his mask off, and everybody started laughing at him.
And the little prick had a little dick, and he takes up, it ain't funny no more. I feel offended.
Then Spaulding comes out with the gun, shoots them both.
No, I thought you took that one guy's.
Well, he murdered Richard Wick, and he shot at the first guy. He shot him in the neck, I think, but he didn't really fully kill him. But what I like with what Spaulding did, as soon as the guys started counting down, and he'd be like, "Fuck your mama, fuck your sister, fuck your grandma,
fuck aunt." Bow.
Yeah, then he fucking steps on him. He's like, "Most of all, fuck you."
That was hilarious.
To throw in a little firearms knowledge, they knew they had picked the largest fucking revolver they could find for him to use in that.
Oh yeah,
and that
that's some big hands, dude. He had some fucking big hands.
And he put that thing up to his nose. You know, he's smelling the gunfire. He's smelling the gunpowder. You know, he's taking it in. And,
But like for shock value, like they couldn't have picked a better gun.
exactly, and that was a big gun. That I would say that's not even a 357, is it?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
No, I think it was a 44 mag.
It might have been that too. But remember, all this takes place back in 1970.
Mm-hmm.
All three. Well, not all. I don't think all three, but I know the first. So we're talking about 1970.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. 77.
Yeah, 1977. So they had the old cars, they had the old gun, and I love the movie. Like I said, I'd give that one a solid 3 because there's so many twists into it.
Yep.
And it's very suspenseful. But it, at first I watched it one time and I was like, okay, I watched it the first time, the second time, go back.
Another thing I like about it, the opening, he had it open kind of like a James Bond film. You know, you got the scene going on in the gas station. You know, you got this guy who's dressed as a clown. Turns out he may be a serial killer. You don't really even know that about him. You know is he's a guy who owns a gas station. You know, he dresses as a clown. You know, he's very famous in that area. You know, he has a lot of tourism coming through there. You know, he's somebody who doesn't like to be bothered, but he loves the business, you know. And if you steer him the wrong way, yeah, he's gonna look at you. You know, he I love the way he intimidates people. He intimidates the group of teens that come in. I'll cover that in a second. I love the way he intimidates.
He
and
is
his
the
sarcasm.
perfect wild card.
Yes,
The very perfect wild card. He would be the perfect Joker, if you honestly ask me.
Yeah.
Because of how that role was played in the gas station. You don't know who he is. He's random gas station.
Yep.
/ entertainer. Know him. He's the wild card. You don't know what he's about. Could he be a good guy? Could he be a bad guy? I don't know.
And that's a great mystery with it.
And now we get to the part, I guess, Mike, we're about to talk about the tourism of 1,000 Corpses.
Yeah, we will. Before that, there was the introduction, you know, with his song and play. It's like a very grindhouse, very gritty music video playing after all that has happened. And it's like, it gets you set up for the movie itself. It's like, okay, this is what I'm in for, you know, some very grotesque scenes, you know, like cannibalism, you know, people getting cut apart and decapitated and all that. When you got these, you know, this family of sickos, well, you don't even know they're a family, but you got these sickos dancing around, cutting, you know, skinning people and shit. It's, you know, you're in for a ride when you're watching it. And
it's something not for kids, just so we all tell you.
Mm-hmm. Even though some of us, when we first watched it, we were technically we were teenagers. Well, out of all of us, Tim was the first one to see it.
Yeah.
You went to see that in theaters, didn't you?
Yeah, I went with Virginia.
Okay.
Was that before the tickets went to $10-20 a pop now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. I think we paid like $5 to see that movie.
I remember you said, and we were talking about it, that Rob Zombie had to cut out a lot of the gore scenes just to get an R rating, because when he filmed it, I think it was at like a very hard NC-17.
Oh yeah, it was.
And because he had to cut a lot of scenes from it just to get that R rating. And I remember at the time, you know, because Tim told me how good it was. Tim loved it. And I remember you said that you were hoping at least they would put the deleted scenes on DVD when it came out. Because I was even interested in seeing that. But then it was like the DVD came out and there was no extra scenes to it. I'm like, what the fuck? I want to see what they cut out.
PS.
Well, here's the thing, like, they never released them. They would have released them on DVD. Now, if you look, I mean, they could have. They probably, let me see.
Because I know on PSN now, like if you watch Rocket Man or Bohemian Rhapsody,
Yeah, they come with
give
the
you
extras.
Yeah, you just pay a little bit
Yeah.
more, but it's
Yeah,
over
but
there.
see, back then it was pretty much the theatrical cut with deleted scenes if they put them in it. And he had to take some stuff out of the original movie just to get it in the movie theater at all.
Yeah, because weren't they going to boycott it at one point because it was that bad?
They weren't even going to let the movie in the theaters
Yeah,
until he cut some of the scenes.
yeah, I remember hearing about that.
There was
And
even
that's how-
some discrepancy going on with the distributors. Like at one point, I think either he wanted Universal or Universal wanted to buy the rights for it, but it was just too far out there, and they dropped it. He tried going through Universal. I think Paramount wanted him at one point.
A lot of people kind of
Yeah.
wanted to buy it, and he refused to sell out his product.
Well, it wasn't
because
that they refused to take it though because of how the movie was, and I think he went to Lionsgate. That's when he went to Lionsgate, and they distribute it for him.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised New Line didn't pick him up.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm surprised, how much difficulty it took for them just to get the movie out because they I think had 3 different set dates. It was.
Well, I'm
Because
looking
it was
at right now. I'm looking at Zombie spoke in 2003 of releasing a super duper deluxe edition of the film on DVD, which he hoped would include the footage of the scrapped characters as well as deleted footage from the film's death scenes. For example, Zombie claimed that the Fish Boy scene was initially much gorier, and he hoped to include the added footage for that scene. Despite his claims, this version of the film has yet to be released. So there's no deleted scenes out there anywhere. Even if you look on PSN, there's no deleted scenes at all for this film.
That just goes to show you that a film from that long ago is still too gory to put on DVD with all of its included material.
I'm going to have to about that because you remember that one with the guy that plays Zombieland. I forgot what.
Woody Harrelson?
Woody Harrelson and that one young girl. What's her name? The one that before that one died. It's called but it was almost like it. There were two robbers.
Natural Born Killers.
Yeah, Natural Born Killers. Was
Juliette Lewis,
one of the goriest freaking movies.
Well, wait a minute. Juliette Lewis wasn't in Zombieland. That was somebody else.
No. That was
But I know what
Woody
you're talking
Harrelson.
about. Yeah, Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis was Natural Born
Natural
Killers.
Born Killers was in '80s. Okay.
No, that came out in the 90s.
And that had more violence and killing.
That came out in the 90s. Well,
yeah.
You got to,
and he even came with a director's cut of it too.
Well, you got to think for the time, the shock value, depending on the audience, the general audience seeing it, and at the time, like going back to like the 1970s when Grindhouse was a big thing. It was like the underground version of a horror movie. You know, they would warn people, you're gonna, get your vomit bags or you're gonna faint. See this film, take caution, that kind of thing. It depends on the time of.
But if you look at that Natural Born Killers and you look at Rob Zombie, is it an equivalent? Do you think? Because Tommy Lee Jones played an excellent role in Natural Born Killers.
It depends on the time, though.
If you combine the movies together, because Natural Born Killers is like what, almost a 2-hour-long movie, and if you kind of put them all together, 1,000 Corpses, The Devil Rejects, A 3 from Hell, it's almost like Natural Born Killers.
But here's the difference. That was a movie. I don't think it was based on anything, but that's like those mafia type movies that you see. They're usually pretty violent when it comes to, if they do any kind of torture or when it comes to shooting somebody. Yeah, that could be gory. There's a line between it. It's like that's like a. I don't think it's like. I'm trying to compare it to like L.A. Confidential or something like that. But yeah, those kind of movies, they're like gangster movies. The gangster movies are usually pretty violent, like Pulp Fiction. You know, in the 90s, those movies were pretty popular.
I can do you one better.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that I Spit on Your Grave was able to come out with all of its scenes, but Rob Zombie's?
Exactly. And
I mean, in that movie, you've got a girl literally masturbating a guy in a bathtub and then cuts it off.
yep. And the thing is, you don't really see it. You don't see her grabbing it because it's like a bubble bath, but you see her do the action, and then you see like blood spurting up, so you know something happened.
Or what's that one, American Psycho? Say.
That was 90s, yeah. Like I said, it depends for the time. It's like when it came to the 90s, or every generation of horror movies, every decade, they try to up the shock value. That's what they've been doing since the 60s and the 70s when it comes to horror movies or movies in general. They try to up the shock value. How much can they shock you? How far can they go? Can they make it more controversial than the last film that came out? And nowadays, you can't really put a movie like that out nowadays because, of course, you got hurt people out there that get so offended and so distraught
that they're going to try to boycott it, but they all the time.
Yep. Okay, so Spaulding's gun was a Colt Lawman Mark II 357. Okay. I wonder what that thing looks like. Well, I mean, we've seen it in the
all
film.
black. Actually, you see it in Devil's Rejects, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I looked it up on the Internet Firearms Movie Database.
Well, I typed that in. This has a snug. It has a snug nose one. This ain't the long barrel. It's like a little snub nose.
Yeah, they come in different barrel lengths. You have like 2-inch, 4-inch, and 6-inch.
All right, so he must have had the longer one.
Yeah, I believe his was a 6-inch.
Yeah, because it was pretty long.
Definitely.
But yeah, for a movie like Corpses, you know, he went for the shock value. Some people enjoyed it, you know, and then there's other people that are probably sitting there like, yawn, you know, I've seen better, I've seen worse. And like, it is what it is. The story makes up for it. So, let's see, where did we get our track here?
As much as I love that movie, I'm ashamed that I don't own any.
I own all three of them.
I got
after watching.
Yeah, I got
Straight from Hell. Trilogy.
But yeah, it's a shame how, you know, that movie came out. I would have loved to see. I mean, even at least, there's some deleted scenes out there for getting off track a little bit. The movie Event Horizon. That came out in, what was that, 97 or 98, I think that came out. That was a sci-fi horror movie. It was a really good movie, too. I know some people out there didn't like it. I loved it. It's like a ghost story in space. Ain't
that like Cloverfield?
No.
Two of them.
It takes place in space. It's got Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne in it.
That was a good movie.
Yeah. Basically, it's in the future, and there's this ship that disappears one year. It goes through a black hole and disappears, and it's not seen until like, what was it, 30 or 40 some odd years later. And the guy who pretty much built the ship, or, you know, made everything for the ship, you know, he constructed it or whatever, he catches wind, or they catch wind of the ship comes back, you know, from another place, or it just appears. So he gets with this crew where Lawrence Fishburne is the captain of the ship. So they decide to go out to find the ship. They find it. They, you know, hop aboard it. And they, you know, they're looking around, you know, to see what happened to the crew of the ship. And, you know, see what caused, what it did, basically. I'm trying to think of words for it. But it's basically, think of it as like Alien, but there's no aliens. You know, they're on a spacecraft, you know, in the future. There's no physical monsters. It's basically a haunted house in space. And it's very terrifying. for anybody who goes and sees it now. But it was also pretty gory for its time, too. There was a couple of scenes that they cut out just to get that R rating once again. And you could find, they're kind of like script drawings, or you can actually find maybe something online. But
Storyboards.
Yeah, storyboards, thank you. You can find the storyboards online for certain scenes of the extra gore. And to think that there's like maybe 10-15 seconds that's just like speeding through of everything, and you like, imagine people at that time pausing the movie at certain places just to see what's happening to certain people on that crew, just like the gory scenes. It was like really gory, and just for them to flash it right in front of your eyes. And it was just so effective. But a movie like that, compared to House of a Thousand Corpses, when it's too gory, or there's too much, it automatically gets slapped with an NC-17 rating. And when the director wants to put it in theaters, they got, they want, okay, I want an R rating. What can I do to get an R rating? Well, you got to cut this out, you got to cut that out. And it's like you said with a movie like Natural Born Killers, when they got certain things in a movie, it's like, okay, how far is too far for certain movies? And at this point, I think it's just Hollywood just nitpicking on certain things, like, oh, you got to cut this out, you got to cut that out. Okay, boom, you got an R rating. And then, of course, those scenes, you ain't going to see those ever. I mean, I'm pretty sure he shot them. But I guess it depends on when he decides to release them, or if he's going to release those scenes. Because I would love to see the extra shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at like a movie like Hellraiser. That was more gory and sadistic than that movie.
The series is still...
Just the theme alone with Hellraiser, it's a religious base, cults, dark magic, Satanism, the stuff like that, S&M. There's like so many different meanings in that movie. It all rolls into one. Sato, what is it? Sato, what the hell do you call it? I can't pronounce the word. I know
sadomasochism.
That's it, thank you. You got that in there. And it's like, it's not just about sex, it's like, what's the next high that you can get, aside sex? What's the next pleasure that can, people look for pleasure and pain in that movie. And they were pretty gory. Like, I know, like, when it came to 3, even though 3 was my favorite, they cut the gore out. They cut out a lot of kills, so I'm like, I guess they edited it for the gore factor, and of course it was I think it was like the shortest of the franchise, too.
But the original, I think the original was gorier and more sadistic than House ever.
Well, the first one with the story was very dark. If you want to me, gorier, I know we're getting off track, but just comparing movies. Look at Hellraiser 2, like that right there. Like if you go back and rewatch it, there are some pretty good practical scenes of gore in there, like decapitations and stuff. It was just so... I mean, the story, took you into the depths of hell, but yeah, like you said with the first one, as dark as it was with the characters and everything that comes together, yeah. And that's like one of those, I don't even know if that's even called an exploitation movie, but that was a pretty damn good movie, though. And I even made a comment, before we move on, I even made a comment one day. I was like, think about it. Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 were distributed by New World Pictures at the time. And I was reading up on New World Pictures. They're a subsidiary contract to Walt Disney. So technically Hellraiser is a Disney movie.
That's crazy. Well, there you go, Walt. You've just been exposed.
I'm like to think they bought out 20th Century Fox, who has the Predator in the Alien franchise. You now you own Hellraiser. You own Pinhead.
Well, that's because they want the money. That's what it all comes down to. Yeah, they'll buy all these small companies.
Man, just wait till they buy this. They'll be like, I don't think we want to buy that. Rob Zombie's too disturbing for us. Well, why not?
Yeah, you already got the other shit. So
Yeah.
I'm doing that now. Back then.
You got sadomasochism, or whatever the fuck that word is, under your belt. So why not?
Why not? Yeah, you've already been exposed, Walt. Might as well continue on.
Mm-hmm. All right, so anyway, House of a Thousand Corpses, after the setup of Captain Spaulding and what's to come. So there's this group of four guys. They're not. I don't think they were teenagers or whatever, but they were on the road. They were. So
they were teenagers.
They were on the road, writing a book about offbeat roadside attractions, and it's a rainy night. Well, I don't think it started out. It didn't start out rainy. It was rainy after that, but they pulled. They're all sitting there talking in the car. And then they pull off alongside to the gas station, which is where, Captain Spaulding resides, and his little museum, the Museum of Monsters and Madman. I thought it was a Monsters and Madness.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, too.
I don't know. So they pulled up alongside there, a couple of guys, they're inside while they're gassing up. They're talking to Captain Spaulding, and he is intimidating them, like scaring the hell out of them, but it's very intimidating, and that's what I like about Sid's character. He had that ability to really intimidate and scare him at the same time, and then smile at the end as he's like, "Yep, gotcha," joking around with him. So,
and then the guy was messing with the girl's hair in the back while he was in the cart.
Yeah, I forgot what his name was, but yeah, so they take him on the tour of the museum, tell him about all the tales of like Ed Gein and all the famous serial killers and cannibals in history. And then he comes across one called Dr. Satan, which is a fictional character. There was a story about Dr. Satan. I forgot how he told it.
Now, before we go to that guy, the rest of the killers were actually kind of real, I think. The guy with the nails up his butt, like.
Well, I don't know about him. I know he mentioned Ed Gein.
Yeah, Ed Gein was real. And then there was another guy that was a thing.
Yeah, because there was like 3 or 4 of them. I forgot what it was.
No, it was 3.
I thought that was what I thought.
It was them 2, plus then it was Dr.
Yeah. So,
because he was...
So they went ahead, they finished up the tour, and the one guy was interested in visiting the grave site of Dr. Satan, because he heard about it. So Captain Spaulding went along with it. He gave him a little forewarning, gave him instructions, good luck, basically, and set them on their way. So they go up the road on their way to see this Dr. Satan's grave site. End up with they end up seeing a hitchhiker on the side of the road, a young girl, young blonde. And they pick her up, take her home, end up getting a flat tire. So the girl and the guy, Bill, they end up going off together, so she can go she said, yeah, my brother has a tow truck, so we'll go get the tow truck, come back and pick you all up. So everything seems good. It's a little creepy, but it starts out pretty decently. They're kind of trusting with this girl. She goes back to the house with Bill. Her brother comes out, picks up the car, takes it back to the house.
We don't know who the brother actually is, because the brother was also the entire thing.
Well,
even in the movie, because the guy was actually a hunter, so we don't know if the hunter is actually brother, even though she could have made that up, and that could have been the Fly's boyfriend.
I think that's what you call. I think that the character's name is Stucky. I think that's who it is. No, it wasn't Stucky. I'm sorry, it was Rufus. Rufus was the guy who went and picked him up. So it was Rufus. I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia for it. So Wolf is.
Yeah, you don't even see that guy that much in that movie. That's kind of like throughout another wild card. Like,
no, you see him a couple times. You see him. He's
only in the tow truck scene.
No, he's in a tow truck scene. Then there's another scene where he's carrying a body out to the car, and he drives that out to the field where the police find it. And then he's in a scene at the end where they're having their little Halloween soiree. He's dressed in the cop's outfit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
But still, though, I'm thinking that's baby's mother's boyfriend.
I mean, it could be. I mean, it's not really said, but you know, there's a lot of speculation that goes on.
Oh yeah.
So after the crew makes it back to the house, you know, they have dinner. They learn a little bit more about like certain history with Dr. Satan, and you know, they're learning a little bit more about the family, but they're pretty disturbed at the same time. And of course, you know, they meet old Otis, and you already know what's going on because you find out, you know, baby Firefly has a history. You know, she's got cheerleaders tied up in her bedroom. You got Otis, who's upstairs with a cheerleader tied up. You know, he's raping her. He's got them tied up. He's killed her. So you already know that they're sadistic murderers. But it's like,
But they
okay,
also, have you gotten to the part where they're at the dinner table?
that's where I'm at now.
Okay.
So
Now, where's that one guy, Grandpa?
Yeah,
That guy's interesting.
yeah, Grandpa Hugo, played by Dennis Fimple. Oh, he was on MASH. I was wondering where I've seen him before. He was born in he died in 2002. So he died right around, so House of Thousand Corpses was his last role. Yeah, he died, I guess, either after the filming or during the filming. Just wonder why we didn't see him in Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, I was curious myself because I was going.
He was in the movie Truck Stop Women, 1974. It's like a not like a porno, maybe like a soft porno or something. I've seen parts of it.
Oh Lord!
I don't see too many. Oh, he was in the movie Maverick. Okay, I gotta look him up in there. That's probably where I saw him.
Yeah, but he was actually not that bad. He played actually a pretty good role on dinner table, but it kind of threw me off. Like, what? This guy is nutcase.
Yeah.
And I was like,
he was a nutbag and a half. Yeah, so far, like, okay, they had dinner and they put on a show for the teens. You know, Grandpa Hugo telling his jokes, baby Firefly coming out doing her little Betty Boop imitation. So Betty Boop on Monroe.
To the joke part, his jokes really weren't that fun. Kind of, to me,
They
if
were
you listen to it, they were annoying. Yeah, very annoying.
You know, he's talking about
like,
eat your grandma's pussy and shit like that.
Yeah, that shit was annoying. So I'm like, dude, yeah, that kind of got annoying.
I mean, now if we got the whole joke, you know, if he was actually to come out and tell the whole joke rather than like the ending and all, I'm like, okay, eat your grandma's pussy. Okay, it's disturbing, but okay.
I'm wondering if that part got cut out. If that was scenes that got cut out.
I don't know. I mean, the
Because
way
if you watch the movie Thousand Corpses, and there's a lot of cutouts, a lot. It's unbelievable. And I'm thinking when they're in that right there, even during that part, you can tell they cut a whole bunch of. Really did.
Well, there's a lot of movies that do that too, like quick cutaways in certain scenes for whatever reasons.
But Babies was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Monroe.
She had a lead up. She had a lead up to what she was doing, and then of course, with what she did, it angered Bill's girlfriend, and it got them kicked out, of course, you know, and their car was already ready, you know, it was already repaired, so they were out the door. No hard feelings to the family, you know, they laughed it off, and then of course, as they're driving away, that's when Baby makes her appearance outside, and they scared the hell out of them, so they go to drive away, and of course, you know, they got a locked gate or a closed gate, so I'm like, when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, why do you all either not crash through the gate like some people do in some movies?
Yeah.
Or
that's another thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I was like, why would you get out of a car? You have no idea where.
Exactly. And then when you stop, you're stopping like 30, 40 feet away from the gate. Like, pull right up to the motherfucker. You're not going to hurt your car. But what happens? But what happens? They get jumped by Otis and Tiny, and they end up pulling everybody out of the car, and you don't know what ends up happening next.
I gotta say that Otis part was pretty good. Came off that scarecrow. It caught me off guard. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, because when it comes to the dialogue and how intimidating he can be with his character, he pulled it up just as well. Maybe not as great as Sid Haig, but he was pretty good. Like, even with his dialogue was set up perfectly. Like, when you listen to a conversation from Bill Moseley's character, or Bill Moseley in general, like, it's like an intelligent conversation, whether he plays the villain. I don't know if he's ever played a hero in any movies, but it's just so.
Oh man, we'll get to the next movie about that. He talks about hero.
It's just so.
It's hilarious.
It's so brilliantly built up to what his next action is going to be. So, they take all the kids inside. And then, of course, the next day it's Halloween, so that's when everything starts happening. You got Rufus who takes their car and impounds it to an open field. There's a body inside that's discovered later on, and then of course you see that inside each teen is being tortured and killed. Like, Bill's turned into a fishman. I'm going to step away for a second.
I'll go ahead and continue about that part.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about that.
And, well, it was pretty funny because, I'm not going to step to the next movie yet, but Bill Moseley played the role for that fisher. As they was doing, as that girlfriend was sitting there crying. Now, if I'm going to let you, if I'm going to take off this thing, you better not scream. And she asked, where's Bill? Where's Bill? Oh, Bill, oh, he's doing really good. And so then he turns Bill's girlfriend, and makes him into the fishman. That was, I'd have to say, that was pretty creative. But then, like Bill does, Bill and his, humor / horror laughs and all that. It's like, hey, there's Bill right there. He's looking right at you. Doesn't he look great? The sick, hilarious. And this is from both. Otis, Bill Moseley, getting there, man. I mean, then we go to, I think, Tim, help me out here a little bit, brother. When we get after the fish part, then I think it goes, Baby.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I'm not sure if it's Baby or it goes to Mother Firefly now. And, but it was pretty good when he got to the part of Bill Moseley. Fish. He looked pretty good for a redneck. To give him.
How far did you get while I was away?
Well, he was just talking about the fish, man, how, he created the fish sculpture. That was pretty creative.
Yeah,
like he turned the girlfriend around and said, if you don't scream, I'll let Bill come out here. He pushes out that cart and shows Bill has the fish arms and all that. Now, after that, isn't that when the police is called and all that?
Sort of, yeah. But yeah, like I read earlier, the scene was initially much more gorier. So I assume Zombie wanted to include the transformation part, or at least add some more to it. And that's another thing I want to see. I want to see like the transformation of Bill into Fishman. And just seeing him in that panning shot was just that was good enough, but I would love to see some more build up to it.
And in a way, it kind of made afraid of redneck.
Yeah.
You didn't know what redneck was. It kind of made you afraid of him. Like, don't piss a fucking redneck off ever.
I just love his dialogue in that scene alone, where he's talking about.
I love how his sick humor horror was like. I was like, oh yeah, Bill looks really good. Yeah, and he goes, oh well, I guess he's gonna come out looking, probably a little scratch marks here and there, but no, man, doing fucking fish sculpture, pretty wicked, good sick.
There's a lot of films that Bill Moseley's in that I've seen quite a few of them. One of them, which he did,
Tony Todd.
yeah. One of the roles he had in the 80s that I loved was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, I've only seen the one with General, the Sergeant.
Oh, you've seen the reboot. I'm talking about the original.
I haven't.
Now, I think it came out in 81 or 82. It was somewhere around there. It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It's got Dennis Hopper in it, but also Bill Moseley. He plays a character, Chop Top, where half of his head is like a metal plate, but he carries around this it's like a coat hanger, a metal coat hanger that he's got made into a hook, and at times he'll stand there and he'll poke at his head, and then he'll like light the hook up, and they'll scratch his head or something, like he's pulling off chunks of skin off his top of his head. But the creepy factor with his character in that movie is insane. Just like with this one, more for the times, like you said, he's got that redneck feel to him, but just his dialogue deliver in these scenes, when he's explaining certain things, and he's being very intimidating, like almost in a joking kind of way, but it's like a sick joke, and then it really pays off in the end with what he's talking about. And I think like when she saw Bill in the way he was, he's like, "That's what I'm talking about, hot mama." He leans over and kisses her and all. And of course that leads to, the girl's father, who's very concerned.
I don't know. We haven't went to the police officers yet.
That's where I'm getting to. That's where I'm getting to.
Oh. Okay, because I thought they met the father after they went to Spalding.
And as a side note, you can tell he pulled from Texas Chainsaw Massacre with the family.
Oh,
yeah.
Big time.
Actually, before I get to the next scene, the comparisons, and I was thinking about that the other night too, the comparisons between the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and House of a Thousand Corpses has some similarities to it, because when everybody looks at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all they see is, Leatherface, the character Leatherface with the chainsaw. But the more creepier factor to it is the family, the very dysfunctional, disturbed family. And Bill Moseley, being in the second film, and the family was just so deranged. And then you see that coming into House of a Thousand Corpses, the family that tortures, these innocent victims, and then they torture them for their pleasures, and then of course they'll end up killing them in the end, and then doing whatever with their bodies. So I think it's almost like, Zombie took that aspect, and used that in his own image. So you could definitely see some similarities there between those movies and this one. And it plays...
Didn't they, when they
think of
DB... Go ahead, Tim.
If you think about it, it's almost like he's expounding upon the family from that movie that was never really talked about because they focused on Leather.
Exactly.
No, I was going to say was when... I'm not sure, Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong. When you bought the DVD, it came with the interview.
I don't think... You're talking about corpses, right?
Yeah, 1,000 Corpses. It came with the, how they showed how they brought out the scripts and all that. They showed the scripts.
I don't think they did. I have the original DVD.
Yeah. You'd have to see if it's on there next time. But
yeah, I'd have to check.
I think Zombie said, man, just go at it. You're all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what Bill Moseley did. Give it his all. Plays an excellent role.
And they do. That's what they all do. Including his wife, Sherry Moon Zombie.
I'll get to that after we cover all three, because I got a lot to say about that, about her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides, she's fucking hot as shit.
Yeah, she's hot as shit. There's some things that I really seriously do.
Yeah.
Because in the first movie, it made her look. If you watched all three movies, it made her weak. Extremely, especially in the second one, than the first one. The first one, I would have to say, Sherry Moon Zombie.
She was more energetic.
Yeah, more energetic. And then the second, that's a toss-up, because it looked like she's dying. The character at one. To me,
Well,
because you didn't really
she
see-
had a
you
little
didn't
pep, but she had a
you
little
didn't
pep, but she was a little bit more calmer.
Yeah. And then when you get to the third one, you're like, whoa, where the fuck did this Sherry's?
Yeah, she was very psychotic. Yeah, we'll get to that. So yeah, the first one, going back to the first one, the father was concerned that his daughter never made it home. So he gets in contact with the sheriff's department, and they wait for him to come out there. And during that whole time, it's when more of the teenagers, being tortured at the house. You've seen scenes of that, but the sheriff, the deputy, and the father, they go out exploring. They find a car in the field. They're told about this car, and it turns out to be the daughter's car. And they check the trunk. There's this dead body of a cheerleader in the trunk, naked, all scarred up and cut. So then they go out. They visit Captain Spaulding, which is, the father remembers that's where they had went to, when she last called her father, was Captain Spaulding. So they go out there, they ask questions about the teenagers, and of course, Captain Spaulding, Sid Haig, his perfect performance right there. It's just delivered so well, even when he was checking out the picture of the young girl, he's like, yeah, not my type though. I like them with a little bit of meat on them. The bigger the cushion, the sweeter the pushing.
But the thing also, the guy that was the deputy is also in a lot of freaking TV shows.
That's Clint Howard.
Yep, Clint Howard. And even
Ron
in
Howard's
SOA,
brother.
Even in SOA, we thought I thought that guy was
Mm-hmm.
SOA.
Actually, that's weird. I'm looking at the Wikipedia. He's not even on the Wikipedia, or at least the shorthand. That's weird.
Yeah, but
Actually, no, we're completely wrong. I apologize. That was not Clint Howard. It looks like Clint Howard. I'm completely wrong. I'm sorry. His name is Walton Goggins.
Yeah,
I would have thought he looked like Clint Howard. I'm sorry, because Clint Howard had such a big forehead like this guy does. This guy, he was in
here's an SOA.
Next Karate Kid, The Apostle. He was in The Crow, Salvation. Joyride, Daddy and Them.
How about
He's
SOA?
IMDb. Yeah, I could use that. Too long to bring up. He was in The Bourne Identity. He was in Predators. What's
He's
SOA?
also Sons of Anarchy.
Let me see.
Same
Yep,
guy.
yep. He was in Sons of Anarchy. Yep.
And also, he was in that one that doesn't even that.
Oh, he was
Sheriff.
also in New Tomb Raider too. Okay, he was in New Tomb Raider. He was in G.I. Joe Retaliation. Okay. Yeah, for some reason I don't know why I thought it was Clint Howard, because I know Clint Howard is in a lot of movies, and he just about every role with what he looks like. I thought that was him, but yeah, it was somebody different. So
I loved it when he said, Spud looked at them off.
you're cutting out bad. I missed most of that.
So when he said, I don't like fucking clowns, and Spud's like, think about it. Oh, yes. Nah, I remember.
No, he was like, you could shit 10 bricks for all I care.
Right.
And then he got real serious with it. They were trying to think, I want you to think real hard. He's like, well, I don't rightly know. See, they weren't in here long enough for me to get to know them like the way I do most of the assholes that come in here.
Oh, yeah. He played that perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then I loved how he says, my name's there, George Wydell. Southern twang.
Mm-hmm. And of course, after they meet up with Spaulding, and then of course Wydell threatens Spaulding, and he's like, okay, don't get like a boot up my ass. I'll give you what you need. So he gives them directions that goes out to the Firefly Farm. And of course, they go out there. And during this time, the family's kind of calmed down. They got the kids all tied up. Otis is having TV time with fucking Grandpa Hugo. A little hilarious moment right there. They're watching the monsters on TV.
And then he says, man, I can ride that thing. Shut up, Hugo.
He's like, don't make me use this, Hugo. He pulled a fucking knife at him and shit.
Mhm.
And then,
Or
of
he's eating
course...
mashed potatoes.
Yeah. And, of course, the three, they show up at the house, and, you know, Otis and them are alerted, so Otis goes out to meet the other two, while Wydell's at the front door, met by Mother Firefly, I can't speak tonight, played by the late, great Karen Black. Karen Black passed away back in 2013, you know, beautiful woman. She was in so many good horror movies. She was in so many great roles, even like Trilogy of Terror that came out, I think, back in the 70s or whatever. She was, 75. She came out, and, you know, that movie came out. But she was also in Tobe Hooper's remake of Invaders from Mars. That was another good one I saw when I was a kid. But she was a really good actress, too. You know, I think that was one of her last roles, too. No, I don't think it was one of her last roles. She passed away in 2013. What was her last role, I wonder? Of course,
I know it wasn't. I know she wasn't in Devil's.
No, she wasn't. They replaced her with that. I don't know the reason why for that. Her last role was A Walk into a Split Mind. I never heard of that movie. But yeah, that was the last Rob Zombie movie she was in was House of a Thousand Corpses. Maybe she didn't like the role. Maybe she didn't like the story. I don't know.
I'm guessing.
So anyway, while all this is going on, and as I explained at the beginning, there's this particular song that starts playing while everything's going in slow motion. You got Mother Firefly who shoots Wydell in the neck. You got Otis out back who shoots the father first. Has a deputy get on his knees, and he's holding a gun to his head, and that shot alone was very strong.
I was gonna say, just that scene.
You keep.
I loved it how the scene where the shooting of the deputy on the knee.
Mm-hmm.
Where they moved it far away, it looks like you shot into clay. The way how the smoke was. You didn't see the blood splatter. You didn't have that. But what they should have done was something like yes, I am. But
Yes,
how
you
they
are.
Sorry, I had a question. But how they did that scene was so. It's like the screen froze.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, is there something wrong with my fucking screen? It's not fucking showing anything. You can't see what they're saying pretty much because it's so far away. You're like,
it was a good impact on that scene.
Yeah.
And it was like just a moment of silence, and you didn't even know when it was gonna. You knew something was gonna happen, but you didn't know when it was gonna happen. And then it happened.
If I remember correctly, didn't they not even play the gunshot?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. You heard the gun go off. You seen the dirt. It was like a disturbing. It looked like he shot at the ground or whatever because there was like a little a thing of dust or a thing of dirt that came up in the air, and then he fell over.
Oh, so it went straight through and through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went straight through. Because even when you look at that scene, it looks like you can see the gun smoke, or you look like he shot clay. It was closed.
It was the dirt because they were outside.
Yeah, but there's also his gun was like what 2 feet away, 12 inches away from the skull. It could have been his skull.
No.
Yeah, he was using Colt 1911 45s.
Okay. So yeah, all that happened. They took out all 3 of them within a matter of 2.5 minutes. And then the Halloween event of the night, they take the last of the last 3 of the teenagers, they got them all dressed up as rabbits. Otis takes the father in, they take them all in. You got Rufus that's dressed in the deputy's clothes. You got Otis who skins the girl's father, wearing his face as a mask. Sick. Yep. That's kind of like one of those actual serial killers, like Ed Gein or something. Gein, whatever, however you pronounce his fucking last name.
Yeah.
So, he comes down, they're getting ready to celebrate. They got alcohol. Well, before
We
that,
went to Fritz Liquors.
yeah,
first, and
it was Rufus and Baby. They went to this liquor store called Red Hot Pussy Liquors. And
which is actually
it was an interesting scene. You got the guy, behind the counter, Gary Ober, or they call him Goober. He's like, oh, somebody put that there. Maybe it sound like I'm Goober, but it's actually G Ober for Gary Ober. But the guy did the way he did my name tag, fucking asshole.
I gotta say, if that's baby girl, hey, sorry, nice.
I was gonna say you cut out every other word, but I know what you're saying.
Baby girl, a lot.
And the thing is, in these movies, that's all you really see is her tits and ass. I guess that's all she wanted to allow.
I didn't see her tits. I've seen her.
That was in the second movie, though. But we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that though. They pick up the liquor. There's a pretty decent exchange of dialogue between Baby Firefly and the liquor store owner. I also gotta say, don't that liquor store look kind of fucking small to y'all? Like, you're usually pretty big in size.
Too small.
I don't know. We got some pretty small ones down here.
I don't know. I think that was a personal own.
That was like a fucking claustrophobic liquor store.
All right.
Because it's almost like there was only room enough for the customers in front of the counter.
But the way they made that one, and it kind of reminded me, they might have went out pretty far to where we're going to go to the second one. This, but I'm getting.
Yeah, because I know even though your Discord's cutting out every other word, I get it.
On a side note, that the Pussy liquor store, there's a couple of them in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen a few pictures of them exist.
I gotta see this. Result in pussy. Well, I don't want the Rob Zombie. there's some blurred out nude pictures. I don't want to see that. Well, maybe later, but. Let's see. There's a Facebook page. Looks like a band, Pussy Liquor. Yep. There's a female band called Pussy Liquor. Maybe I'll find better results later on. I don't know. So anyway, Rufus and Baby, they get their alcohol. They go on home and they have their little event, as I started explaining. And Otis comes down with this brilliant speech. He starts out, I'm the one that brings a Christmas candy or something like that. Now tell me, who's your daddy? I'm the one who brings the devil's brandy. There was a third saying, I forgot what it was, and then he walks over to the girl. And he's like, give daddy some sugar. He starts kissing her to the face, and then he was like, I am the one you love when you're fucking dead. And he really starts scaring the shit out of him. She knows that, her daddy was there, but she knows what happens to daddy. So they begin talking to him, scaring him a little bit. They're all in bunny costumes, tied up. And he turns to the guy, Jerry Goldsmith, the one boyfriend. Who, a little trivia for you guys, he's actually played by Chris Hardwick. And Chris Hardwick is the host of The Talking Dead. In case you didn't know that. Yeah.
I thought he looked like he was from Jay and Silent Bob.
He looks different, don't he? This was back in 2003. If you look at Chris Hardwick now, you wouldn't even think that was him. But yeah, that's the dude from The Talking Dead, the host of The Talking Dead, Chris Hardwick.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So he tells him, oh, you want to meet Dr. Satan? We'll take you out to Dr. Satan. And then the one brilliant line that comes from Bill Moseley, it's just so brilliant, he's like, it's true, the boogeyman is real and you found him. Like, Bill Moseley has all these excellent one-liners and quotes from these movies, and it's just so... They're just so, you know... I can't even find a word for it. I guess I can say they're so memorable.
Yeah.
You know, just that line alone has the edge to it. And then, of course, it cuts to them crossing a field in like it's not like a cemetery or whatever, but then the music that plays is just has that very creepy atmosphere, and you know something very deep is about to go down. And of course, one of the girls ends up running away from them, and Baby chases her down, you know, in a grave. I think it was a cemetery they were near. And then she ends up.
It wasn't just the girl. It was also he got abducted.
What is it? You kept cutting out.
The girl, the boyfriend, and the girlfriend both got. Well, the girl got away from the abductor.
That's what I was talking about. The one girl, she ended up running away. She ended up getting away. Baby chased after her. You know, she caught up with her. I think it was like in a little cemetery, and she ended up stabbing her to death. But the other two, they put them in a coffin and lowered it into this giant well underground. And of course, they, you know, lowered down a tape recorder and a lantern, and they started playing this. It's like a chant on the tape recorder, and all these bodies are like these decrepit bodies in the well start coming up and tearing the coffin apart. And mind you, these two are underground, and the Firefly family, they're already done doing what they did. They're above ground taking care of whatever they had left going on. So Jerry ends up getting carried away by a couple of these bodies, while the girl is left on her own. You know, she's down there, you know, trying to find her way out. What was the girl's name? Denise. So yeah, Denise, you know, she's traveling down this little this hall, and it's a very disturbing hall. You know, you got like all these bodies hanging on hooks or something down there, and it was like a tomb. And then she comes in to the broom. It's like an office waiting room kind of thing. You know, she sees a couple corpses sitting there on the couch, you know, watching TV, and then she looks over, and you got Dr. Satan, who's performing vivisection on Jerry. And then, who is it? Somebody comes in. Okay, Earl, which is Dr. Satan's mutated Satan. Dr. Satan's mutated assistant, Earl, the guy with the face mask on him, carrying the big axe, which was actually Mother Firefly's ex-husband. The one who she explained at the dinner table was the one who tried to set the house on fire, tried to set Tiny on fire, you know, the reason for Tiny's disability. So Earl starts coming at her, but she's able to outrun him, and he ends up trying to kill her in the end, but ends up hitting a pole in the end, you know, and the underground starts caving in on him, killing him in a sense. And then when Denise finally awakens after all that, she's able to climb up out of the ground, and it's daylight. It's the next day. So she's walking along the road, and of course, who comes down to pick her up? Captain Spaulding. Spaulding comes down. He's like, "Holy jeez, girl, what happened to you?" And at this time, we're thinking, okay, you know, Spaulding is a good guy. You know, he came by. You know, he was driving by. He see the girl. He's like, "Oh yeah, I know you. There's a hell of a lot of people looking for you. I'll get you to the hospital. Don't you worry." And then the biggest twist within that whole scene happens like 30 seconds after he picks her up. Otis pops up in the back, just at random, and it's like, my first time seeing it, I'm thinking, holy shit, Otis is going to kill both of them. That's what I had thought, maybe, but then I'm like, wait a minute, maybe Spaulding is with Otis. And then, of course, the movie ends with her laying in the chair, you know, right there with Dr. Satan, and she looks down, and something's happening. He's doing something to her. You don't know what it is. And just her terrified face alone, and her screams.
Terrified.
And then the movie ends, you know, of course, like the old, I like how he had it ending with the end and then question mark. leaving it open for a possible sequel. But
Which now
which he
we're gonna get
did.
in-
But we'll get into that in a minute. But going back over the movie, and I know Tim told me long ago, but when you first saw the movie, what were your thoughts on the movie? What, you know, with everything?
Basically, damn, that was a good ass movie. All of the elements that he pulled into that movie to make it what it was, pulling from other old school horror movies, adding some new stuff, making it edgy, the music, the fact that the underground area kind of looks like it was supposed to be a Guar music video, like everything just fit perfect.
Exactly. And I know some people out there when they watch a horror movie, there's some people that expect a good ending to a horror movie. Yeah, there's movies out there that are like that, but a very effective horror movie that's pretty good. Not all horror movies end on a good note. You know, they end with, you know, the bad guys doing something, the bad guys winning, or something very questionable happens and you don't know what happens in the end. And that's what happens with a lot of good horror movies. And I've actually come to accept that and like it for what it was. And there's, you know, I just gotta accept the fact that there's movies out there, you know, they have a very, what some people call a sour ending, you know, or like, okay, I didn't like the ending. It's like, well, you gotta accept the fact that there's a lot of movies out there that, you know, have an ending like that, and it's very questionable. It's like, okay, the bad guys win in the end, you know. That's what happens, and it made for a good movie. You know, there's an audience out there that doesn't like it for what it was, and there's an audience that this movie has a cult following to it. And I would say we are part of that cult following. You know, we definitely enjoy the movie. I enjoyed it. I remember when I had the DVD, when I first got the DVD of the movie, and a buddy of mine was spending the night. Hold on, I gotta go check something real quick. I'll be right back.
But yeah, I enjoyed that movie. My favorite.
I've actually grown to like movies where the bad people win more than when the good guys win.
Oh yeah, I mean today's thing compared to Rob Zombie films, it turned me into liking the bad guys a lot more. I'm just sick and tired of seeing always the good guys win. You know what I mean? And that's what pretty much like, man, these guys are pretty cool actually, getting away with all the shit that they got.
Yep.
But yeah, he was. I wouldn't say he's the first one to break the trope of a good ending, you know, people getting away and all that, but he did it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
he had wild cards all set in perfect places. Really, really good.
Like if you put that situation into real life, made it realistic, there is no fucking way that those people would have got out of that alive.
No way.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
And sometimes, you know, art does have to imitate reality. Sometimes that little bit of reality makes everything more scary because there was no supernatural monster, there was no blah blah blah. It was just some really fucked up people.
And just imagine, like, and there's people out there like that.
Like the movie's Wrong Turn. It makes it perfectly just like that.
Well, with those movies, they got these people that are deformed by some kind of mutation. That's that. But when you look at a movie like House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, these are actual human beings where the only thing that's twisted is their minds. This is how sick they really are. They are very twisted and demented. And there's people out there that are like that. Now, I've never heard of anybody being completely deformed, like you said. Movies like Wrong Turn, it's possible, but nobody's ever heard of that. But when it comes to the reality side of things, there are people out there that are this sick, like actual serial killer Ed Gein. There's Jeffrey Dahmer, Charles Manson, all those.
Charles Manson didn't kill nobody.
Yeah, that's true. Manson, he had a twisted mind, but he had a following that did all his dirty work. But when you got like
H.H. Holmes.
H.H. Holmes, he was a director, wasn't he? Or not a director, an author.
No,
He was the first serial killer.
he was the
That's right,
first documented serial killer in the United States, and he created an entire building dedicated to killing.
That's right. You all were telling me about that a while back. I don't know why I thought he was like an author. I'm thinking like, something H.H. something. I forgot what it was. But yeah, that's right. You did mention it.
Also, what was the other guy that got caught in 1970? Raped a whole bunch of killed him.
I forgot. There's a lot of fallen out there.
I mean, you've
But
got
Ted
like the
Bundy-
Night
Ted Bundy.
Stalker.
No, Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
Yeah, Ted
you got the
Bundy.
Zodiac Killer, Jack the Ripper, all of them out there.
The Zodiac Killer was 1950.
It was nobody still knows who he is.
Oh, yeah, nobody don't know who he is still, and that mystery still continues.
Same thing with Jack the Ripper.
But Jack the Ripper, actually, I thought was over in.
That was over in London,
That
yeah.
was in England, yeah.
Yeah, it's over in England, yeah. But I'm saying, like, there's people out there that are that demented when it comes to that kind of thing. Like Jack the Ripper, he murdered prostitutes. Zodiac Killer, I forgot what his reasoning for it was. You got the Ted Bundys, you got Jeffrey Dahmer, Ed Gein, John Wayne Gacy, all these actual serial killers.
Eileen Wuornos.
Like you said, also H.H. Holmes. There's people out there like that.
And the scarier part is just think of how many or more are out there that haven't been.
Yeah, the Zodiac Killer, for one.
Well, no, I'm saying ones we've never even heard a peep out of them because they're just that good.
Yeah. And when you compare those kind of people to what you see in these films, that's the reality of it. You know they're out there, you know what they're capable of, but you don't know where they're at. You don't know where they live. They don't know. You just don't know. And that's what's creepy about it. And then of course, nowadays, you got all these shootings and stabbings going on. People doing some weird fucking shit. That's the reality of it. You've got some pretty fucked up people out there.
And that's what made this movie the most creepiest, but the most curious and interesting, is because that could happen. Like, it's not some supernatural being that you can't kill. It's just normal people. And I think that's what made it so alluring.
It has such a good impact with that too, yeah.
With a lot of twists, though. It left felt, okay, is there going to be a sequel to this? Is there going to be a House of Corpses 2? Or you didn't know the next after that because
it had a good impact.
Yeah.
That's like when you watch a movie like Halloween. Halloween it doesn't have a supernatural presence to it. You got a boy who's very mentally disturbed, and he ends up murdering his sister at a young age. He was a very young age.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are we discounting Halloween 3?
Well, I'm only talking about the first one. I'm not doing any kind of supernatural things, but I'm just like, you take a movie.
It's because we find out in 3 that he's, actually cursed.
Well, 3 had nothing to do with Michael Myers.
Let's take it back a step to Rob Zombie's Halloween, which makes a lot more sense for the story twist.
Yeah, Rob Zombie did Halloween a lot better because he didn't put that in it. He was just a guy that was
And he
really
also
hard.
had the guy that played Star Trek Generations as Dr. Soren.
Well,
Something McDowell. Forgot what his first name was.
Well, talking about serial killer movies, though, like whether it's the 1978 or Rob Zombie's 2007 version, I can cover. We could cover a whole segment separately on Halloween movies because Halloween 3 was a completely different thing and it had a reason to be it. But when you look at a movie like Halloween, now, granted, for me, Rob Zombie's version, I did enjoy it. It may not be the best out there. I enjoyed it. They overpowered his ass. You know, they made him twice as strong than what he was in the original movie. If you look at the original Halloween, with what John Carpenter had in mind, was this kid who grew up into this teenage. He had just turned 21, I think, 18 or 21. He had just turned, it was his 18th birthday, and he escaped from this mental asylum. This is a teenager who had just turned 18, and I see you over there, Tom, over there in the chat. What's going on? You got this guy who just turned 18. He escaped, and you're back from your club meeting. Oh, okay, that's what's up. So you got this guy, Michael Myers. He's very deranged in his head. You know, he has something very dark going on in his head, and you don't know what it is. There's nothing supernatural. It's just he's a serial killer. You know, he's a guy who he escapes. He goes. He steals a mask. He steals some items from a store. He puts the mask on, and he goes on a spree of killing. You know, he ends up, killing off a couple, babysitters. He goes after the one babysitter who gets away. But he's a very deranged person. He's a very silent serial killer. He, lurks in the shadows. And of course, what gave that movie its edge was the fact that he's out there. He's a faceless serial killer wearing a mask, but it's very faceless. Now, yeah, it's an original William Shatner mask that was used. They combed the hair back, they spray painted it. It's a little trivia if anybody didn't know. The original Myers mask was, in fact, a William Shatner Star Trek mask that was used in the movie. But, that's a serial killer that, is deranged in the head. He doesn't speak at all. His actions are everything. He's very slow. He walks. It's an example of a serial killer that does not walk. Whereas, that's just something in his mind. It's something they put in there. But the fact with a lot of these movies, like House of a Thousand Corpses, with this deranged family. Same thing with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a group of, they're all human. There's nothing deformed about them, but they're very psychotic. They're very demented. And that's what makes for a good movie is you don't need somebody who's burned and scarred a lot, burned and scarred and chases you in a dream. You don't need somebody like that. You don't need somebody who's mutilated, drowning at the bottom of a lake. That kind of stuff is fictional. You need somebody who's very deranged. You need somebody who's very sick and twisted in the mind. Somebody, it's like, what would make this person snap? That kind of thing. That's what makes a good horror movie, is you got some psycho, you don't know the backstory to them, they're very psychotic. They're very demented. And that's, like Tim said, that's what gave this film its edge. That's what made it very... It had a very good impact on it. It made it a very good film. And I would think if a lot more people saw it today, not just looking at the fact that it's directed by Rob Zombie, and I know there's not a lot of people out there that are fans of Rob Zombie, but you look at a movie, it's got a grindhouse feel to it. It's got a pretty good story for as short as the movie is, but the story is just, this family. They're very demented. They have another side to them. They abduct teenagers. They abduct young women and all. They do things to them. They have these weird ceremonies at Halloween time. It's a family of serial killers. And that's what makes it a pretty good and interesting film. Now, when I first got the movie on DVD, I had a buddy of mine stay the night with me. and we were going to stay up and watch a couple horror movies. So he had never seen the movie, so I showed it to him, and he was freaked out. he was freaked out. It had an impact on him. I loved horror movies growing up. I've seen a lot of horror. I've seen some that scared me as a kid, but I went back and watched it. And that's what I love about horror movies. I could sit there and watch them. They still have some kind of effect on me, depending on the mood and how I'm feeling at the time. Yeah, it has some effect. But it was just fun to me that he was freaked out by this movie, and he liked it. But he couldn't even sleep that night. We had to sit up and play video games just for him to calm down.
And they say now that the fact that we can watch that movie, be entertained, and then sleep, apparently we're psychopaths.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all psychopaths. I could sleep like a baby, and then tomorrow I can go kidnap somebody and gut them like a fish, and I can sleep like a baby tomorrow night.
It's like, no, that's not the case. It's just we take it for what it is. We know it's not real. Nobody's actually getting hurt in the movie. It's just
And it's and it's low budget too. It's low budget.
Yep, exactly.
It's low budget.
And there's no CG effects in it at all. That's the biggest plus about this movie. No CG effects. Everything is practical. Tom said he could. Actually, you just missed Riddle in here, Tom. I'm pretty sure he would have loved to be in here when you said that. He's like, yeah, I could. Bring Tim over there. Have him laugh again for you. You sit in that chair. So, House of a Thousand Corpses was a good movie. It had a pretty good impact on the culture of horror films. We've all enjoyed it. Great acting. Then, of course, it was followed up by a sequel in 2005, The Devil's Rejects. And even James Roth over at Cinemassacre.com, the angry video game nerd himself, he even said one year he did a Monster Madness marathon where he reviews horror movies. And during one of his marathons, he said out of the two, if he could have picked, he picked the better one. And everybody would agree the better one at the time was The Devil's Rejects.
Oh, yeah.
And this was a very powerful sequel and horror movie to what we just basically discussed when it comes to the human psyche, of today's reality when it comes to serial killers.
This movie here was better.
And this one didn't have that grindhouse feel to it. It felt more...
First, I'd have to say at first it did because you had Tiny walking through the woods before it even started.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, like grindhouse feel. Like when you look at House of a Thousand Corpses, the style that Rob Zombie used in that film was very much like a grindhouse film, with the gore, the sex, the violence, everything about it. It had that weird twist and appeal to it. This one kind of had... this is more of a gritty feel. Not grindhouse, but it has a very gritty feel to it. And...
To me, the second movie felt more like a getaway movie. Like you're seeing them trying to escape the law and all that, and they just happen to still do some fucked up shit.
Exactly.
The thing about it, the second movie, have you noticed the difference in the yard?
Say that again, you cut out on us.
Have you noticed the difference of the yards?
Mm-hmm.
First one, second, it's a different location.
Yeah. They probably didn't think about doing a sequel to it until later on.
But the thing about it is, though, Mike, is it's still in Ruggs.
Mm-hmm.
The place George was killed at, but it's a different.
Well,
there you can watch the deleted scenes on that one out.
Yeah, I might go back and do that.
The second one, because they showed exactly how that one was actually acted out with all the. There was no visual effects. It was just pretty much again, another low budget film, they said. And it was really, really, I liked Devil. If I had to pick the best of the three, it's going to be this one.
Yep. Now, this has some of the characters, or some of the actors, reprising their roles, of course. You got Sherry Moon Zombie reprising Baby Firefly. You got Bill Moseley reprising Otis, Sid Haig with Captain Spaulding. Leslie Easterbrook. She was actually... Here's a little trivia background. Leslie Easterbrook. She had quite a few roles in the 80s and the 90s. She played Debbie Callahan in some of the Police Academy movies. She was one of the kind of like instructors. She was the hot blonde. She was the blonde bombshell in the Police Academy movies. She was the one that everybody, had a crush on.
Yeah, she was hot.
She is hot.
Mm-hmm. She replaced Karen Black as Mother Firefly. That's one thing I was actually trying to figure out.
She did a really good job on that role.
She did. She was pretty dark with it.
Now, this movie, I see Otis at his right here, like at his greatest.
Yeah, him and Spaulding too. Him and Sid Haig, they really emphasized their characters in this film. They really explored a little bit with the characters.
And this one, Baby's not that great. Baby, still thing about it with Baby. Okay, I understand. Baby in the first movie was kind of like getting used to see how it's done, kind of. Still in the second one, she was kind of still in that phase, absorbing all this.
She was a little downplayed, but she still was pretty decent. She wasn't as psychotic as she is in the first movie. It's more like, think of it as like giving her Ritalin and she was calm. That's basically what it was. It's like, okay, she put her on Ritalin. That's pretty much how you could describe her role in this film. But it leads up. It leads up to a pretty good climax, and we will get to that. It has a very good climax with her character, and it played off very good. And I think that's
also, if I may interrupt, this one also has another wild card. There's a lot of wild cards in this one. I'm going to have to say, a lot of wild cards. We're going to get to who those people are.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Now, just like with House of a Thousand Corpses, as I'm reading here, Rejects also went through the MPAA 8 times, earning an NC-17 rating every time until the last. According to Zombie, the censors had a problem with the overall tone of the film. Specifically, censors did not like the motel scene between Bill Moseley and Priscilla Barnes, forcing Zombie to cut 2 minutes off of the theatrical release. However, the footage was restored in the DVD version. That's another actress that I will say, it's a little trivia to those of you who have not seen it. Priscilla Barnes has a role in that said scene. Priscilla Barnes played Terry, the role of Terry in Three's Company in the later seasons. If nobody knew that.
No, but I tell you what though, that she.
You keep cutting out.
That band that she in with the Sullivan.
I know we're only like all 2 hours in. I know, but yeah, like I said, you keep cutting out there, Empire. It's Discord or your connection. You keep cutting out every other word.
It's gotta be. But that one, Ben band was at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that part I can understand where they cut out some of that, because some of that I could see from a person's perspective that made that 17.
Yeah, that was a very disturbing scene right there. You will definitely get to that. Before I cover the movie, and I'm not trying to go into detail scene by scene with the movie, just like trying to explain it. What are your thoughts when you first saw this film, Lycan?
I loved it. I'd have to give this one a top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I thought it wasn't as good as the first one, but it was just as good as a sequel because we never expect sequels to be just as.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is I loved the music. This one had more music, and it fit the whole theme.
Yeah, Rob Zombie had a very good taste in soundtracks. He had that classic rock, that 1970s classic rock feel to it.
Yeah, the soundtrack I'd give a 5, and I'd actually give a 5 to the character development.
Oh yeah.
But as far as the creepy factor and the gore in the second one, it didn't top the first.
Oh no, it's not gonna be. It wasn't. The thing about it is, I love the twist. Again, you don't know who the bad guy is. You don't know who the good guys is. But in the beginning, you do see who the good guys are. But it's later on in the movie is the twist.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Oh,
one
wow.
thing, the one thing I'll give the second movie, they made you want to love the bad guys like they were the good guys.
Exactly. Yeah, because that was the forefront, was the bad guys throughout the whole movie. You were rooting for them up until a certain point, and I'll cover that a little bit later, which is a really good twist in the movie. The soundtrack, like you said, it's a really good soundtrack. You got bands like the Allman Brothers, Three Dog Night, Leonard Skinner, Joe Walsh, Terry Reid. You got all these good bands. Elvin Bishop with his song "Fooled Around and Fell in Love." Like the part of the movie where that song fell in. Oh my god, it was just. I don't know if I could laugh at that scene, but it was just it just fell in there. It gave it a little bit of humor. Plus, it was a little dark too because of two of the characters who were killed off by Otis. And then you got this little montage of pictures for these two characters, and they play this song, "Fooled Around and Fell in Love." I'm like, I don't know if
That's actually pretty interesting. I think I know what scene you're talking about.
I don't know if I want to laugh or if I want to feel bad for the characters.
In fact, when I don't feel bad for the characters, otherwise, like I see it as like this is a kind of a freaking twist. Like these two guys are in this picture smiling, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
really?
Especially what they had just went through too.
Exactly.
And
then I loved how the part at the scene, I think after that, is where Bill Moseley again, perfect fucking.
What was that again?
The perfect fucking acting by Otis.
Yes, his delivery of dialogue was perfect.
Yeah, it was.
You know, the guys lay there on the ground, and he's like, "Please, mister, stop." He's like, "Stop, bitch! I haven't even begun."
And the thing about it is, like, you try to be some kind of hero, buddy. I was gonna let you go. I think that one's in the DVD version, but the other one, it's not on the PSN version.
And then he walked over to the one guy, and he was very intimidating, and he was like, "I want you to pray to God. I want God to strike me down with lightning." And then he starts praying, and he's like, "Oh, I could feel it. He's coming right through me. Oh, Lord Jesus, I repent." And then he looks down, and he's like, I think it was either to him. Yeah, I think it was to him.
Yeah,
and he was like,
the older guy,
he was like, "I am the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's work."
But the thing is, okay, at that scene, I think that's a replacement, a temporary replacement one, because that didn't look like Bill Moseley. Compared, if you look back on the earlier, I think it's a replacement.
I might have to look at that, yeah.
Because you could tell the difference. I think the replacement, because he did have a replacement.
I mean, they do that sometimes. You'll have like stunt doubles in there to do that.
Yeah.
I know one scene that I know it's kind of unsettling to some, but I actually enjoyed it, where they're in the hotel and he's looking over at Priscilla Barnes' character, and he was like, Strip for me, hot mama. Let me see what's got Haas's balls in a sling all these years. And Priscilla Barnes, for as old as she was at that time, like if I look up her, all right, right now she's 64 years old. So this movie came out in 2005. So she was about 58. No, not 58. 48. I mean, I'm sorry. She was about 47, 48 when she was pretty goddamn hot. You know, you see her breasts and all, and she was pretty hot. Mind you, this was the woman who replaced, I forgot what her name was, but it was Suzanne Summers. She didn't replace Suzanne Summers. She replaced the girl who replaced Suzanne Summers on Three's Company. She played Terry. She was in the later seasons of Three's Company. And I'm like, damn, to see this woman, you know, in this role used for this scene, it was just it was just superb. I loved it.
There was the guy that wanted to be in the bull hunting. I like when the first part where they're at the ice and baby goes meow meow, and then next you know the guy comes back with the beef jerky.
Oh, his name was Roy, I think. Was it Roy? Yeah, his name was Roy. That was Jeffrey Bond Lewis. Oh, he passed away in 2015.
Yeah, and that guy's been in several movies. Funny how Roy was talking to Hoss. And
oh, he was in the movie Pink Cadillac with Clint Eastwood.
He was like, "No, that bull will take that home."
See, I don't remember him in these roles, but he was in some movies I've watched. He was in Pink Cadillac with Clint Eastwood. He was in The Lawnmower Man. That's another pretty decent movie. There was another one I just saw. The Man Without a Face. I think that was with Mel Gibson. He was in Maverick. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So what you're saying is he's that guy?
What? That guy's character, the actor, or?
Yeah, well, the actor. He's oh, it's that guy.
Sort of, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, it's from where I'm looking at, he appeared in more than 100 films. He was also principally known for his roles alongside Clint Eastwood and Robert Redford, that kind of guy. The guy that he's talking about. And then of course Candy. Okay, so later on in the film, there's this girl who portrays a prostitute under Charlie, who's played by Ken Foree, another horror legend, the black guy. Ken Foree, he's in a lot of.
Supposed to be Spaulding's brother, right?
Yeah,
that's Captain. Yeah, I love it. I love it when they pull up to that place stuff because he's like, "What motherfucking brother of mine comes up here?" And has that little word that looks like a freaking shotgun. Like, what kind of motherfucking brother of mine come up here uninvited and all this other shit? I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, he acted like he was going to fucking shoot him with the gun, and then Spaulding was going to go at him, and he fucking spits water at him. He's like, ah!
He's like, you better shoot me, or because if something about dick.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it was such a great scene with that. The girl Candy, she's a prostitute under him. Here's a little funny trivia for you guys. She's played by E.G. Daily. She played the role of Dottie in the movie Pee-wee's Big Adventure. She's also a voice actor too for let's see.
That'd be a cartoon.
It's several cartoons. She is the voice actor of Tommy Pickles in Rugrats. She did voice acting for Darkwing Duck, Ike the Cat, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Duckman, Bump in the Night, Recess, The New Adventures of Batman. She was Buttercup in the Powerpuff Girls. All Rugrats, all grown up. So this woman, Tommy Pickles, Buttercup from Powerpuff Girls,
is a prostitute.
Is the prostitute in the Devil's Rejects. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it.
There you go, everybody. If y'all want to go see a cartoon as a prostitute, there you go.
There you go. It's like Tommy Pickles has a pussy in there.
Ty Pickles is a prostitute, just so you know.
Because even in there, the character Charlie asked her, he's like, why are you not making all this money, sugar? Like, well, I keep bringing these guys in here, and all they want is this quickie hand job. He's like, oh, $10.
Honey, you gotta hustle that pussy. You gotta hustle that pussy.
Yeah, hustle that pussy there, darling.
Yeah, everybody wants to fuck that Princess Leia girl.
Yep.
Oh, dude, that shit was hilarious as fuck, dude.
That's another credit to Rob Zombie in these movies is the one-liner.
Yep.
Oh yeah, big time. There is no question about that.
Every character, yes. There's even some notable roles to some people that a lot of people don't really notice until you mention it. PJ Souls is in this movie. She was in the original Halloween movie. She played, it wasn't Annie. What the fuck was her name in that movie? She played the dumb blonde. She was kind of like a dumb blonde in Halloween. What was her fucking name? Linda. She played Linda. She is in the scene where Spaulding's car broke down, or his truck broke down, and he needed a car. And she was the mother with the little boy in the station wagon.
Yeah. And actually, if you watch the scenes where they take you back and all that, and they talk to the people, that little kid was actually fucking scared.
Oh, I bet. He had to be scared for that role.
Scared, yeah. He was terrified of that role, but they convinced him to do it.
And it's such a beautiful meme, too. You know, he gets in the car with the kid. He's like, what's the matter, kid? Don't you like clowns?
Don't we make you fucking... Aren't we
Don't we make you laugh? Aren't we fucking funny? Because if you don't have it, you better think of an answer. I'll be back in a little while. And if you ain't got an answer as to why you don't think clowns are funny, I'm gonna kill your whole fucking family. That's...
But before that, the funny thing is where he's having this dream with this one hot prostitute, and he wakes up to this Mexican chick. He's like, sounds like a fucking whale.
Yeah, he's having like a wet dream. He's fucking this hot ass chick, and she's about to blow his head off, and then she pulls the trigger, and he wakes up to this fucking big girl.
But then he goes in the bathroom. He's like, I got a piss, woman. You make my dick hurt from last night.
Yeah, she's fucking tugging on his underwear and shit, and he's standing. He's like fucking a mongoloid or some shit, and he starts humping.
But the body motion is hilarious. Like, the fucking body and shit. That was hilarious.
You feel like I'm fucking a mongoloid.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
And then, of course,
what's your thoughts on that, Tim?
You know, the second movie was definitely a lot funnier than the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of lift. There's a lot of comedic lift with that movie. You know, it was dark. It had a very gritty, I want to say like a gangster feel to the horror genre. It felt like not a Godfather kind of thing, but think of it as like, what was that movie? Goodfellas, I guess. You know, feel like Goodfellas with the horror aspect to it, with all these they act like gangsters, you know, on the run from the law. So, just to give a brief...
You forgot a couple more actors in there, Mike.
Oh, I'll bring them up in a second. I'll actually bring them up in a second. I'll lead up to it. So I'm not going to go detail to detail with the synopsis, but the film opens up 7 months after the events of House of a Thousand Corpses. And this time, Texas Sheriff John Quincy Wydell, portrayed by the very great William Forsythe. He's a very...
He's also in, what's that one, Deuce Bigalow, I think it is?
I didn't see Deuce Bigalow. I remember him being Flat Top in Dick Tracy, the movie Dick Tracy. He was also in the Steven Seagal movie Out for Justice.
Where's that one where he was asking about a penis pump? He was
I haven't seen that. I don't think I've seen it. I've seen him in quite a few movies.
It has the funny guy from Waterboy. The guy says, "Oh, kill them all." Shit, what's his name on it? Rob Schneider. Him and Rob Schneider did a movie together.
I'm looking for it, but I can't really find it here.
I think it's Deuce Bigalow. And they were all in a class in the penis pump thing, and it blew up his penis or something. And he was all pissed off because of
Actually, I'm looking at it. Yeah, Deuce Bigelow. Yeah, he was in there.
Yep.
Detective Chuck Fowler in there.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, William Forsythe, he's an amazing actor. You know, when he's played like the bad guy or whatever, he is explosive with his role in this movie. So
You think he's a good guy. I loved his one-liners as well.
yeah.
He's like,
So
you better tuck that. There isn't gonna be no death today. You better tuck that shit in, boy, and something else.
Yeah, so the movie opens up with him and a large posse of state troopers. They come out to the Firefly residence and they surround the house, and there's this great shootout that happens, and they end up taking out a couple people, but Otis and Baby make it out through an underground drainage. They arrest Mother Firefly. I don't know what to call her, Butterfly. Yeah, the family, you know, they opened fire. Rufus was killed. Mother Firefly was taken into custody. Otis and Baby escaped. I don't know what happened to Tiny. Tiny shows up at the end of the movie.
Tiny only had like a couple major roles.
He only had a couple segments. So
he actually went back into the woods, I think it was, because remember how he saw the troopers and he turned around.
That's right. Yeah, because he was dragging a body out to the woods when he saw them, and he was gone. So, other than that, Otis and Baby, they steal a car, they kill the driver, they make it to a phone, and they call up Captain Spaulding. Turns out that Spaulding is Baby's father. You know, you don't know that in Corpses, but you learn it here. You know, Spaulding is her father. Turns out his name was Cutter. He actually mentioned his name was Cutter when he was calling Charlie later on in the film. So they warn.
Well, what's interesting about that part where they stole the car in the interview stuff, and not in the interviews, but when they were doing a rolls for it, that lady was actually laughing.
I bet.
Yeah, she was laughing. She couldn't get a serious face. They had to do several takes on it, from what I was understood.
Oh wow. But yeah, they got a hold of Spaulding. They told him that that the house was raided. Spaulding told him where to rendezvous at. So they met at a motel where, and we were already talking about that. We'll go a little bit into the scene where they're needing a motel room, and rather than risking going inside the office to check in for a room, and they take notice to who they are on TV. So they meet up with the guy Roy. Baby. Yeah, Baby plays her little thing, she's like, hey, can you take us into the room or something, you want to take us in before my brother blows your fucking brains in or something. So they take these 4 people hostage in a motel room. They end up shooting one of them. And there's 2 women, one's played by Priscilla Barnes. The other woman was played by, what was her name? Kate Morby, Wendy. I think her name was Wendy. Yeah.
Yeah, she was Wendy, but she wasn't that great.
Nah, she wasn't. So they spend maybe about 20-25 minutes in the film, while they're in there, and they're not really torturing them, but they're just holding up in the room trying to figure out what they want to do next. So then, of course, Otis takes the 2 guys out, Roy and what was the other guy out? Yeah, I think it's Adam was the character. He's played by Lou Temple. So Adam and Roy, Otis takes him out because he's
you see that funny ass picture.
He takes him out to some place where Otis has some guns buried. So he ends up killing those 2 out there. While at the motel, Baby ends up killing Gloria, Priscilla Barnes' character. And the other girl.
I gotta say about that point where she threw the knife, you could tell they did use a screen on that, because you could tell if you see the knife move, there is a you could see the computerized part of that.
Well, I don't know how much of that is true unless they mentioned it.
No, it's not mentioned, but you can see it, because I even saw it from on my PlayStation, because I got it on PlayStation. You could see the graphics on that one, just that scene, because I think they said they had to do digitalized on that.
They probably
That's all
did.
visualized on that.
So either way, like Otis returns and Spaulding comes in, and of course the last remaining girl that's left alive, you know, after Otis had skinned his face off, they put the face on her, and then of course they leave. The girl ends up getting ran over by a truck anyway, because the next morning housekeeping comes in, and the girl runs out. The girl runs out screaming. She's still got the skin mask on her face, and her hands are tied, and she runs to the road screaming for help. One car passes her by, then she turns around, an 18-wheeler smacks her right in the face. So of course, you know, the police are called to the scene, and they know, okay, who we're looking for is here. So the three are on the run. The one thing that didn't really strike me with the movie was they were trying to get a connection with characters related to the Marx Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't get a connection. Tim, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I didn't really see it. I mean, if they did it, it was so subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they were trying. I think they were trying to make it subtle with that. You know, they were trying to have connections with like different characters from a bunch of Marx Brothers movies, and that's where they got the names from, like Captain Spaulding, Baby, and all of them.
You gotta have aliases. You gotta have aliases.
That's probably where the aliases came from, because you got Wydell, who's trying to make these connections. And
the funny thing is, they bring in the guy that actually had the full book and shit.
He was like an expert on the Marx Brothers.
Yeah, and the thing about it was, I loved when him and that one guy got into it, and he said, "Fuck Groucho. Get this piece of shit out of my fucking office." Oh my lord.
Well, that scene had some comedic value to it, you know, where he's explaining the Marx Brothers and all this, and then when he mentions Elvis Presley, and Wydell's like, "What'd you say about the king?" And he goes on to saying something else, and then Wydell reaches over, grabs him by the collar, and he say, "You listen to me, you piece of shit. If you say one more goddamn derogatory thing about Elvis Aaron Presley in my presence again, I will kick the living shit out of you."
Fuck Groucho.
Like, get this piece of shit out of my face. Fuck Groucho.
And that was before when he had the dream. Now, the dream is where he is raining with his brother George.
Yeah.
And the George says, "I want you to kill these motherfuckers." I mean, I was like, holy shit. George had an actually mean side to him.
Yeah,
because when you watch the first movie, he doesn't have that.
No.
I was like, oh, wow. And then you really see who the wild card is, which is pretty much William Forsythe. William Forsythe becomes the wild card.
Now, before we get to that part, so the three are out on the road, dubbed the Devil's Rejects. They finally caught up with each other. It's not a touching, but it's a hilarious scene with them where they're on the run and they see the sign for this ice cream stand, and Baby's like, "I want some ice cream." And Otis is like, "You are not getting no fucking ice cream. I'm not stopping for no ice cream." And they're going along with it. And Spaulding's like, "You know what? I can go for some Tutti Frutti." And they're just sitting there. They're taunting Otis. He's like, "I'm not stopping anywhere." And they're like, "Tutti fucking Fruity. Tutti fucking Fruity." He's like, "Look." He's like, "Listen, there is no fucking ice cream in your fucking future." And of course, they stop for ice cream anyway. That's CLO. That's
some of this, and waves it in his fucking face and puts it in his fucking mouth, pretty much.
He's like, "Look, there is no fucking ice cream in your fucking future." That was just that's my favorite scene from that movie. It's that scene with the way the three of them get along. Like, they argue with each other, but you could tell they're family. You know, family. That's all it's about. That's the feeling in the movie is family.
I like when he describes about being a hero. That's one of my favorite scenes, is where he describes what a hero.
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to be, some kind of fucking hero or somebody? You know, and how he describes what a hero is and all that shit. He's like, there is no fucking hero.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Moseley just plays it perfect. I mean, it's like, wow, dude, like you really hit this fucker on the nail.
Well, let me see if I could find some quotes here. And it had a lot of good quotes. There's the one
So
about the
I was thinking-
devil.
But then also, are we at the part yet where they ran into Charlie's?
We were getting there, yeah. Let's see. Otis had some pretty good quotes too, like we were talking about. At the motel where Adam was sitting there and he was like, "Please, mister, this is insane." And Otis was like, "Boy, the next word that comes out of your mouth better be some brilliant fucking Mark Twain shit, because it's definitely getting chiseled on your tombstone."
I love that one too. You gotta say that's a good one.
And there was one scene, I forgot exactly where it was, but I did remember him saying, it's where he was in the middle of getting ready to kill both Roy and Adam. He was like, "Consider me fucking Willy fucking Wonka. This is my fucking chocolate factory. You got it, my factory." There's just so many brilliant quotes from that movie. And I'm trying to find the one where you're talking about where he's the hero.
The hero one's right before when he went to over when he shot him in the throat. He says, "Boy, this is what happens to a fucking hero."
You want to see what happens to a hero? This is what happens to a hero.
You want to see what happens to a fucking hero? You're here. I'll show you what happens to a fucking hero.
Mm-hmm.
He speaks the fuck out of Hoss.
Yep.
And if I remember correctly, I think that Adam guy is actually a real band person from the Roy Sullivan band. Because they did say something about there was a real band member in there.
Well, that's just a movie. I mean, if it's not,
It could have been.
well, you never know. I mean, I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, I would have to look that up see if that's true. So, anyway, the three make it to it's this little establishment run by the character Charlie, played by Ken Forhey. And they meet up with him, and this is where they go to lay low, till either the heat cools down or they could figure out where they want to go. And Wydell, played by William Forsythe, he knows that's probably where they're going, because he reads up the name when it comes to the Marx Brothers kind of thing. When they're investigating that and they're trying to link them to that, they figure, okay, Charlie has a nickname out of there too. So he starts linking things together and saying, okay, this guy Charlie is connected to Captain Spaulding and all these people. So at one point in the movie, Wydell has a little showdown with Charlie. And he says, "Look."
And I love the part where it says, he's like, "Bosh!" Whoever the guy that plays Charlie's sidekick there. "Bosh, I don't fuck chickens. He fucking chicken."
I forgot who that was. Michael Berryman. Yeah, he played Clavon. He was played by Michael Berryman.
Clavon was hilarious, man. "No, Bosh, that motherfucker guy's fucking chickens and shit." And then the guy that was selling him the chickens was like giving the description. I'm like, "Dude, you're
You're a fucking chicken fucker, yeah."
Yeah, he's
But
a fucking chicken.
But yeah, with that scene, he's like, "I don't want to do anything to you, Charlie. Don't make me do anything to you." Basically, he said, "I want those three." He's like, "Tonight, midnight, I want them, and you better clear out of here too," or something like that. He was going to spare Charlie and his and his little business, so he was like, "I want those three." So what happens next?
Charlie says, "Well, what if I don't do it?" He's like, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll put a bullet in your fucking head right here, right now."
Yep.
And then that's where he turned heel.
So the next part for Wydell scene, he hires these two, they call themselves the Unholy Two, played by Danny Trejo and Diamond Dallas Page. Yep, DDP.
Yep.
The old wrestler.
They're actually bounty hunters.
Yeah, they're like bounty hunters, but yeah, they're bounty hunters. That's what they're called. But they call themselves the Unholy Two.
Remember that right now. Bounty hunters, them two.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, because on the next thing we're going to talk about next, twist.
Oh, I know. So
Not going to give it away.
behind the scenes, Wydell hires them because they're going to do his dirty work. They're going to take care of Baby, and they're going to take care of Otis, while Wydell goes in for Spaulding. So they end up catching the three of them in the end, and Wydell takes them back to the house to where he wants to do his own personal torture. Now, before all this, we see Wydell go into a downward spiral mentally with everything. You know, he's trying to catch these murderers, and he's trying to find justice, not only for everybody that was murdered in the house, but also his brother from the first movie. And like you were stating earlier, he starts seeing the apparition of his brother, who's telling him, you know, you gotta kill him, you gotta do whatever you can, kill him, get him for me, you know, that kind of thing. And the first person that Wydell kills is Mother Firefly. You know, he visits her in the jail cell, tells the officer on duty, you know, take the night off, I got it from here. Once he does that, you know, he ends up, you know, doing his little thing with Mother Firefly before he ends up, you know, crushing her neck.
Sex, but they're really not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the funny part about it. She's like, ooh.
Yep, so he ends up killing her off, and you could tell there's a downward spiral to him mentally. Something's about to happen. So after he gets through with, you know, capturing these three from Charlie, sparing Charlie and, you know, his little, you know, his establishment, they go back to the Firefly house. He takes them in the basement, ties them each to a chair, and he starts to quote-unquote torture them. You know, he's driving these long metal stakes through Otis's hands to the chair. He's got pictures of cheerleaders and everybody that they have killed, and each one of them is taken, what's the fucking word I'm looking for? Their association. You know, which one of them, you know, killed this person? It's like, okay, who killed this girl? This girl here, who killed him? And if Baby was like, that was mine, I remember that bitch. So,
Baby,
she would
love this.
Mm-hmm. And he starts stapling these pictures to their chests. So at this, and this is the turning point where people are rooting for the good guy. You know, people are always going to root for the good guy. So it's like, who's the good guy at this point here? And people are thinking William Forsythe. You know, they're thinking, you know, Mr. Wydell. But this is where the roles start changing, where he started out as the good guy, but then when he releases Baby from her chair and he starts chasing her, like, with him going in that downward spiral, he's becoming the bad guy, where you're, you know, hoping for the, you know, now the killers are the good guys, in a sense. So roles are reversing here for good guy / bad guy. And Wydell is chasing down Baby. You know, he's just like very demented at this point. And the chase pursues for about, I want to say, about 5-10 minutes. Yeah, that's how long it's about. And
Shot her in the calf.
Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, here comes Tiny. Right before he's strangling Baby. He
He did stake out Otis's and whatchamacallit's in Spaulding's hand.
Oh, Charlie.
No. Even before Charlie, Wydell hammered stakes through Otis's and.
That's what I said. I already said that.
Oh, you said that?
Yeah, he drove the metal stakes through his hand. I already said that. Yeah. So while Baby's on the run, Charlie comes out of nowhere and kind of redeems himself. But then, of course, Charlie is killed off scene by Wydell right before he tries to kill Baby. That's when Tiny comes in out of nowhere and, you know, pretty much twists his head, and that's the end of Wydell. So then Tiny goes in the house, he rescues Otis and Spaulding from the fiery grave, you know, because Wydell ended up starting to burn the house down. And, of course, you know, he saves all three of them. Tiny goes back into the house, and that's the last time we've seen him, because that actor, Matthew McGrory, yeah, he died in 2005, right after the movie. That was his last role, sadly. That dude was 7'6".
That's insane.
317 pounds, 7'6". He was a giant.
He was a giant.
He was actually in. He was in the movie Men in Black 2. He was a tall alien in Men in Black 2.
But that spiral, that's the epitome of the old saying: you either die the hero or live long enough to become the monster.
Yep. And I love how that was turned into an aspect of that movie. I love how that was put into there, and it gave the movie its twist. And it's like for the whole movie, you're rooting for Wydell. You're waiting for him to catch these people, bring them to justice, or do whatever it is he's going to do. And then, like you said, it starts turning. So the roles are reversed, and it's like, okay, well, who do I root for now? Everybody's scared for baby Firefly. They're scared for her. She's trying to get away. She's terrified. For this character, for everything that she's done in the first film and all the events in the second film that led up to that point, it's like, how do you like it now? You were the one torturing these poor innocent people, killing them, but how do you like it now? The roles are reversed, and it scares the shit out of her.
Well, the secret to those of us that really do love the movies is we were rooting for Baby and them the whole.
Exactly. And that's what made this movie so good when it comes to it's very character driven. And, the characters are explored a little bit more. This is more of where you explore them as a family, not just as psychotic killers, but as a family in a way, too. It expands a little bit. And there's even some really deep moments in there, especially with Baby and maybe with Spaulding.
After you left off that part where you laugh, I'm going to take us to the next scene where they're in that car of Charlie's. They make you realize they're actually not bad people.
Yeah.
Because they have that little flashback when they're in the car of Spaulding, Baby, and Otis.
All the good times with them, yeah.
All the good times. Until, the final scene where the shootout begins and all that. But they played the perfect song for that, Free Bird.
It was so beautiful. The ending to that movie was so beautiful. They're driving down a highway. They're wounded. They're tired. They're in bad shape. They're driving down this open highway in this desert, and Freebird is just playing. And then at one point, Otis stops the car, and there's his barricade of police cars just sitting there in the middle of the road, and they know what's getting ready to happen. So then the climax of the song starts playing. All three of them get guns ready, and they start cruising down the highway. They start speeding at the cops. And this big shootout ensues, and all three of them get nailed. And at this point, you're thinking, they're dead. They're dead. There's no way they survived all them gunshots from however many police officers were standing there waiting. But that whole scene at the end was just beautifully shot. It was just beautiful. Even during the credits, the camera panning across the open road. It was such a good end to the movie. With everything that led up.
The thing is, when they were doing that family scene there, it makes me wonder what got them into being psychotic.
That's one thing you'll never know.
That's what I want to see as the very beginning of from that led up to 1,000 Corpses, to led up to Devil Rejects, all that. But most of the characters are now dead, so we're not ever going to know about that. Unless they find some fill-ins, which is kind of hard.
Yeah.
But, I give the film an overall 4.5. Solid 4.5.
It was really good. I'd say, even though Corpses is my favorite horror movie, but Devil's Rejects as a movie, I don't fully see it as a horror movie because it's hard to distinguish what a horror movie is anymore. People think when you hear about a horror movie, you hear about Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Chucky the Killer Doll, or nowadays fucking paranormal stuff. Ghosts and entities and fake entities that pop out of walls and shit. That kind of thing. But horror movie, they have different appeals to them. Some people considered Godzilla horror in a sense. They consider King Kong horror in a sense.
They made it into an action. The new one.
If I had to classify the second one, I would probably put it more in the thriller category.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
Pretty much, yeah, a suspense / thriller.
Yeah.
Actually, I would go more towards psychological thriller.
Yeah. Because of, the as psychotic as these people are, yeah, that's more of a category. Because even though
but the thing is, as you go to the first one and the second one, you really don't know who the main characters are going to be up until you've reached Devil Rejects. Then you find out, okay, the most 3 main characters of this whole entire series is because in the first 1,000 corpses you don't see that.
Yeah,
that's pretty much the hidden until I guess everybody like, oh, I like this person, this person, this person. Say, you got a 3.
Yeah, in the first movie, you think it's going to be the people that they capture.
Mm-hmm.
Up until the end where they kill them off, you're like, okay, these are the guys we're supposed to root for. They're the innocents. And
yeah, just like Tom said, it's possible to make horror movies where nobody dies and there is no psychopaths. That is true. There's quite a few. There's a lot of movies out there that are like that too.
Well, yeah, I mean, what? The Shining, no one was killed in that, right?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, there was.
Okay, well, it's very few.
There's a couple, actually. The police officer was.
But yeah, like, you can have very few or no deaths and still be...
Yeah, still have that proper effect of horror. Yeah, horror... There's a lot of different subgenres in there, but like I said at the beginning, horror, it has a very unique evolution to it.
I really wouldn't call the what was that movie you were just talking about
horror is an experience. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I see that as a thriller more than a horror film.
Yeah.
The Shining.
Yeah, I find out more of a thriller, to be quite honest with you, on that than a horror. Because, in a way, okay, you see the 2 girls at the end. That's pretty much, there's your spooky right there. That's it. And then the other areas, you just see pretty much more of the, murders. He's trying to go kill his wife. This other shit. I really don't see the horror, but more of a suspense thriller of it all.
But I mean, really, isn't a thriller really just a evolution of the horror movie? And
yes, but some people don't define it that way, as we do.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. They'll look at thrillers as like something that's like action packed or have a lot of drama to it, but it's like some heavy drama. It gives you those thrills. But there are movies out there that are also considered horror thrillers or thriller / horror. And
like,
I would
take The Sixth Sense for instance. What would you consider?
A thriller, a psychological thriller, or suspense. Yeah.
But the fact that he's a ghost in it, wouldn't that make it a horror movie as well?
Horror aspects, yes, but the paranormal aspect, yeah. Tom said in Stephen King's book he doesn't use an axe. Yeah, that's because the novels are quite different from the movies too. Yeah, because I think like when it comes to a Stephen King movie like The Shining or It, I think a vast majority, I want to say maybe about 60 to 65% of the fans and audience of anything Stephen King related probably only saw the movie and not read the book. Like me, I've never really read the books, but yeah, I know that when it comes to novels, there's a lot of different changes made to the movie that are from that made from the book. But yeah, what was I talking about? Like you were talking about The Sixth Sense. Yeah, I would call it like a psychological thriller with horror elements, and the horror elements being the paranormal standpoint. Where the kid sees the ghosts and he's terrified of the spirits, but ends up being they're looking for somebody to help communicate for them in a sense.
So yeah, so I mean, honestly, I think all thrillers have an aspect of horror, and all horror movies have an aspect of thriller.
Yep. And I think it juggles back and forth, between that line. I think when it comes to a horror movie, there's a line where it's like, okay, it balances between horror and thriller. And I think there's that line with just about every movie. Like, when you see a movie like, okay, I'm looking at a Halloween right now. Halloween considered a horror movie, throughout the franchise because you got this mass serial killer. But then again, it has that sense of suspense and thrills that gets you on the edge of your seat where you're rooting for the good guy, or you're like, oh, don't go around that corner, don't look in there, that kind of thing. Paranormal doesn't have to be, that's true, paranormal doesn't have to mean horror. I know, like, in this day and age, people look at paranormal movies like Paranormal Activity or any movies like The Conjuring or something. Yeah, they're considered horror movies, but when you hear about paranormal, not all paranormal is terrifying and should not be looked at as horror. It's just a sixth sense in a way, I guess, when you look at it.
Yeah, because honestly, I don't think the Sixth Sense movies were scary at all.
Yeah, I only seen it a couple times, and it didn't really give me any chills, but I would say it's more of a suspenseful thriller, psychological suspenseful thriller, whereas this one, Devil's Rejects, considered an American horror film, but I would say an American horror / thriller. But this movie, it was a pretty good follow-up to House of a Thousand. Even though House it was very colorful, it was very dark, had a very unique grindhouse feel to it, and it was very twisted. Whereas with this one, it was very gritty, and Tim said at the beginning, I forgot what you said it was, but this one it was a very different appeal to it. Coming soon, Halloween 75, that time when Tom runs out of tacos. I gotta say, Tom, those tacos are pretty good. I ate those. I smashed those Friday night right after I got to work. Those were pretty good. Yeah, kudos to the wife on making those. Those were pretty good.
See, what I was saying is, to me, it seems like a getaway movie.
That's what it is, yeah. And what I liked about it, personally, is it had some pretty good character development to it. It focused on, the characters, the bad guys that you end up rooting for, from the beginning to the end. It had some pretty good character development to it. There was a lot of great scenes in there, a lot of great memorable scenes. The quotes, the dialogue was genuine, coming from, delivered by Bill Moseley and of course Sid Haig in this movie. The dialogue was delivered, I guess I can give it a more unique word. It was deliciously delivered in a sense. I agree. And it's got a good cult following to it. And it's not just one of those movies where you can sit around and say, okay, let's watch it at Halloween time. This is a movie you can watch all around. This movie, even though it kind of requires you to see House of a Thousand Corpses, but it doesn't have that feel that the first movie had. It has its own appeal. That's like looking at going back to the Halloween franchise. Looking at like the first two Halloween movies where it focuses on one night of a chain of events that happens in two movies. And then of course you go to the third movie, which it was originally supposed to be an anthology series. It had a different tone, it had different characters, it had a different story set, and of course they ended up returning back to the Michael Myers lore, but I'll explore all that in another podcast. For me, with Devil's Rejects, when I first saw it, I didn't know what to think of it when I first saw it, But over the years, rewatching it and coming to appreciate it a little bit more than what my original thoughts were on it. So I definitely enjoy this movie. It doesn't have a strong horror impact that the first one did, but I do enjoy it. It's a very memorable movie. I think it's one of those top 10 movies for me to where if it's on, I have to watch it. You know, like certain movies today, if I flip to, I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that movie. I don't feel like watching it. It falls in a category with like Pulp Fiction. If Pulp Fiction's on TV, I gotta watch it, whether it's censored or not. I gotta watch it. It's one of those movies where even if I turn it on like halfway through, I gotta watch it. It's one of those movies that it has that impact on me, and I love that's what I love about it.
Quotes makes you want to buy it.
Yeah. Well, not just the quotes, not just the dialogue quotes, but the overall film.
I would say the quotes and the characterizations, how they did all the characters.
Yeah.
Buy.
And Tim, you said you haven't seen this movie, right?
The newest one? No.
No, Devil's Rejects.
Oh yeah, I've seen Devil's Rejects.
Okay, so how would you rank this film? Like, what would you... Well, I think you already said that, but I mean, I'm trying to get everybody's opinion on it before I move on to the next one.
Like I said, I wouldn't rank it as high as the first one on the horror factor, but as far as character development and music, it definitely was better.
Yeah. Now, moving on to the last one.
This is where me and Mike has different opinions upon this.
Yeah, this 3 from Hell. Now, it was long debated, you know, nobody knew there was going to be a sequel to the Firefly family. That's a goddamn tongue twister.
Yeah. Actually, we kind of did because they ended it with a black screen with his gunshots. We don't know what happened.
Well, we already knew what happened. You know, they were getting shot at on screen. And the black screen was just, you know... because everything was done in slow motion, but then it was a continuation of, you know, gunshots. So you assume they were dead. You know, they were getting hit pretty hard. You know, they were trying to hit the police, but they were getting hit pretty hard. So you assume, okay, they're dead at this point. You wouldn't expect a sequel, but
like the news anchor said in the beginning,
yeah,
1 in a million chance of surviving.
Mm-hmm. So this one, this was Sid Haig's, it's not his last filming project. Like I said at the beginning, he's got 2 more movies coming out next year, and probably the year after that, that he did some actual filming before he passed away. But this is the last film he was seen alive in. And this is, God, I want to say... Let's see, Rejects came out in 2005, so 14 years later we get a sequel.
Yep.
And this film opens up several, you know, films. It opens up with several news reporters covering the events of the prior film. Now, Tim never seen it, but I'm pretty sure you're open to spoilers, I guess.
I wouldn't be here if I wasn't.
Alrighty. So, anybody else here, if you plan on seeing it and you don't want spoilers, I recommend turn off the stream, go watch the movie, and then come back, because we're about to get into spoilers. I'm going to talk about the story. We're going to talk about the characters and why I feel this movie. Well, it's a strong one for some. To me, it fell quite short, much shorter than The Devil's Rejects. So. Through the reports, I'm just going to read the plot off of the story with Wikipedia, and then we'll go through and decipher it. Through the news reports, it is revealed that Baby Otis and Captain Spaulding miraculously survived the shootout with the police, and that they will be tried for their crimes. The trial is widely covered nationwide and becomes a cause célèbre, resulting in the organization of protests that insist the trio's innocence. Numerous fanatics also adapt the chant, "Free the Three," claiming that the crimes were committed as a means to fight against the system. Despite this, all 3 are found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. In addition to the final verdict, Captain Spaulding is executed via lethal injection. So, Captain Spaulding had a very short scene at the beginning, maybe not even 5 minutes, but he's given some dialogue. He's given a speech to one of the interviewers, and that's when it said he was executed by a lethal injection. So Sid Haig only had maybe a 5-minute role at the beginning of the film, and they wrote him off. However, Otis is reunited with his half-brother, Winslow Foxworth Foxy Coltrane. I'll get into that after the plot.
That's a fucking long name to remember. Jesus.
The two managed to escape from jail while doing some outside prison work. In the process, kill Rondo, who was arrested after the end of the previous film as well and was sent to this very same prison. Now, Rondo was the
bounty hunter.
Yeah, he was the bounty hunter played by Danny Trejo. And apparently he was arrested after the events of the last film. I don't see how.
The reason why I see how he got arrested because his only witness was dead.
True.
It's the only thing I can think of. There's nothing else that would fit, but that means Diamond Dallas Page would have been arrested.
Yeah. Now, meanwhile, all this is going on. Baby unsuccessfully seeks parole as her mental state has further deteriorated since her incarceration. So in this film, like as we stated with corpses, she had a very pepped and energetic attitude and perception in House of a Thousand Corpses. She was very energetic. She was very hyped. And Rejects, she was a little bit more calmer, more down to earth, but she was still pretty psychotic. This one, with her being incarcerated for the amount of time that they were in, she
was in the hole a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, and her mental state was off the wall. She was like, if you thought she was crazy in House, she's fucking loony here.
This film actually makes you root for for Otis, Spaulding, and all them. Actually, if you look at this one, it really does this time. This one's like, okay, here's your stars. We want you to root for these guys.
Yep.
Because if you notice before the parole how that lady was treating Baby and all them, shit, the fucking prison system was fucked up.
And here's something else too.
I think also before you missed the part where the warden said, "This is my you are the product of my death house," or some shit like that. I remember Otis repeating the scene.
Well, we'll get to that after the plot, but yeah, during her incarceration, she is sort of tortured mentally by one of the prison guards. Her name is Greta, played by Dee Wallace. And I mentioned her name earlier, Dee Wallace. She's in a lot of films. And, of course, it's learned in the movie. A little spoiler, of course, while we're going into spoilers. Her character is lesbian. So she has some kind of affection to Baby, but she doesn't really fully let on. But Baby knows she has some kind of affection going on, and she doesn't let it overpower her. So at one point, she ends up having these two other guards. I think they're other guards or prisoners. She locks them in this caged room to where they're there to pretty much beat her up or kill her, but it ends up turning the other way around where Baby kills them. So, yeah. So once free, Otis and Foxy begin planning to free Baby from prison. To accomplish this, they kidnap the family and friends of the prison's warden, Virgil Dallas Harper, who was played by Jeff Daniel Phillips.
Ain't he the cop in the second one?
That's what I thought. Let me see.
He looked exactly the fuck.
Well, the actor wasn't in that. He wasn't in that film, but that's what I'm thinking. Because he looked oddly familiar. Even if it wasn't the same actor, he looked oddly familiar, like he was from that movie. Otis and Foxy demand that Harper help Baby sneak out of prison, or they will murder everybody that they hold hostage. Harper follows their commands and sneaks Baby out of prison, by disguising her as a prison guard. However, once Baby is free, of course, Otis and Foxy decide to eliminate the loose ends and kill all the hostages as well as Harper. Now united, the three are undecided as to what they do next, but eventually decide to flee to Mexico, a decision that is made more pressing due to Baby's growing instability. Otis, Baby, and Foxy manage to successfully cross the border and flee to a small town in Mexico that is celebrating the Day of the Dead and hole up in the town's lone hotel. They briefly worry about being recognized, but dismiss their concerns, unaware that the hotel's owner has in fact recognized them and has alerted Rondo's son, Aquarius, to the location. Now,
which is also a guy off of Mayans
Yep.
in Sons of Anarchy, the leader of the Mine.
Yeah, because at this point, with the police on their trail, but they're over in, they're across the border, they're in Mexico. Now, Rondo was part of I think it was like a Mexican gang, and since his murder, and he was murdered by Foxy and all, the guy who owns this motel alerts his son, who's, I think, the leader of this, there's the leader of this group. The owner keeps him occupied with both the celebration and local prostitutes, while Aquarius heads out to the location with several henchmen in tow. The following morning, Baby bonds with the local worker Sebastian, who's a he's a dwarf in the movie. He's a midget.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about that in a minute.
Who notices Aquarius' arrival. He warns Baby of the danger before running to warn Otis, just as Aquarius' men break into the whorehouse. Otis and Sebastian hold off the attackers until Foxy arrives and rescues them both. Otis separates from them, managing to successfully find the hotel owner and kill him. During this time, Baby manages to kill several of Aquarius' men using a bow and arrow she took from the Harper's house, that's a pretty cool scene. Because usually you see Otis using a gun, Baby using knives or whatever, but she used a bow and arrow in there, and she had this costume on like she was a Native American, and that was just a pretty cool scene, to see her do that. Eventually, Foxy and Baby are outmatched by Aquarius and are taken prisoner. During this, Sebastian is shot and left for dead. Aquarius and his remaining goons use Baby and Foxy to draw Otis out into the open. Otis appears and squares off against one of Aquarius' men in the knife fight, while Sebastian, still alive despite his wound, sneaks up and silently frees both Foxy and Baby. This enrages Aquarius, distracting his men in the knife fight and allowing Otis to gain the upper hand. He, Baby, and Foxy manage to overpower Aquarius, however Sebastian is shot and killed in the process. The film ends with the trio emulating Aquarius before walking off into the Mexican town. So a lot happens with this movie. Let's see, Aquarius, he was played by Emilio Rivera. Who was he? What movies were he in? I think I've seen him in a few.
He was in Sons of Anarchy, and he's in the movie, and he's in the TV show Mine.
Okay, he was also in the movie Venom. He was a lobby guard. He was in the movie Hitman Agent 47. He was the policeman in Spider-Man 3. He was in the movie Street Kings. He was in a lot of movies. I'm looking at I'm trying to see if there was something I've seen him in. Okay, he was in the movie Collateral. Collateral had Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise in it. I remember seeing him. That's where it was. He was in the movie Bruce Almighty. Cable Guy. He was in a lot of movies. TV show wise, yep, he was in Sons of Anarchy. Yep. So we got some. Oh, I mentioned Clint Howard earlier. Clint Howard's in this movie. That's right. That guy I mistaken earlier in House of Thousand Corpses. Yeah, he's in this movie. So
let's get down to the
decipher
reasons that. Yeah, what's the cipher?
Well, I want to cipher before I get into my feelings. So you got Bill Moseley and Sherry Moon Zombie reprising their roles for the main part. Sid Haig, who had passed away You know, this was he was very ill at this time, I guess. Yeah, even Rob Zombie said he was ill. And even Sid Haig came out and said that this was my last film, I know it. This is the last film I'm going to be in. And he was very ill. You could tell in this movie, when you see his scene, he is very sickly. You know something was going to happen. Like, even though this movie takes place, I want to say, I forgot how long, it was like several years since the second movie. It takes place a few years after that. And like I said, Baby Firefly, the character, her stability and her mentality, her mental status starts deteriorating. She begins going fucking nuts. Like, if you thought she was crazy in Corpses, she is nuts in this movie.
That and the second one, if you combine those two, you might actually get her in the third one.
Yeah. It's almost like, I want to do a comparison. Let's go back to the movie Hellraiser 2 and Hellraiser 3. I know this is off topic, but this is a pretty good interpretation. So, Hellraiser 2, you get a backstory of Pinhead, of his former self, Elliot Spencer, and he is reminded of his former self. He's reminded by Kirsty, the character in the movie Hellraiser. And then, of course, in the second one, he's killed off, and you think that's the end of him. Whereas in the third one, Pinhead makes a reappearance, but at this time, the story is basically himself being split off into two entities. His psychotic entity, which is the demon, and himself, Elliot Spencer, who presents himself through this TV reporter's dream, who asks her to help him bring the two back together as a balanced being. Where, you know, in the first two Hellraiser movies, he's well balanced. He's not too psychotic, but he's balanced. It's like he has a good and a bad side. Where in the third movie, both of those sides are split. So his bad side is raining hell on Earth, and his good side is appearing as a entity in a woman's dream, saying, "Look, get the box. We got to get my other self back in, you know, we got to find balance, we got to bring him back to hell." That kind of thing. And that's where I'm seeing, like, Baby's character in a sense, you know, like, she's very psychotic at the, you know, in the first movie. The second movie is like her character is balanced. You know, she's psychotic, but she's still down to earth calm, in a sense.
I think because like pretty much like a mature veteran expert, pretty much it's like that.
Yeah. So so she's well balanced in the second one. The third one, she's off the walls. It's like she lost that balance. She lost that balance from her inner self. So she's more psychotic than she is balanced in this film, and she's just all over the place. It's like they cranked the nuts dial up to 100 on her.
Yeah.
And it's just saying it's like, okay, they try to bring back her psychotic side from the first movie,
and the second one,
but it's like she is very cranked up. It's like she's out there. She's gone. Even in the movie, Otis says how fucking nuts she is.
Oh yeah.
Well,
and the thing about Otis, let's get to Otis.
Well, first of all, let's see what Tim says. What'd you say, Tim?
Okay, good.
there's a very real possibility that she might have some kind of bipolar or split personality disorder.
That too.
So in the first movie, her psychotic side's taken over, but her sane side is still a little bit there. In the second movie, her sane side takes over because it's needed to escape. And in the third movie, being incarcerated just totally fucked her up, and her psychotic side just took over.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Now with Otis, I'll let you take care of Otis.
Otis, well, here's what I'm thinking, okay? Otis, first one, okay, good. Second one, good. Third one, he died off somewhere. Just a smudge. They lowered his, I guess, his psychotic rage dramatically in the third one. which I didn't like because Otis was supposed to be like the badass, but he really wasn't the badass supposed to. And that's why kind of like, I can't give it that 4. I got to give it a 3.5 because of that. I'm an Otis guy. I like Otis.
I think he had a more balanced side than what Baby had. Now, yeah, Baby was, like Tim said, had a bipolar effect to her, where, she could be real psychotic, she could have been real calm. I think where Baby's character, the Baby Firefly in the second one, she had that more balanced nature, and in this one, Otis had a more balanced nature to everything that had happened. He was shot up at the end of the second movie. Of course, all his wounds are healed. He spent time in prison, and he got busted out. So I think this time around, he has that more balanced feel to him. Whereas, like in the second film, he was he was very psychotic in the first film. The second film, he had that psychotic feel to it out of the 3.
Right.
Whereas in this one, I think
it's like he's done. He's tired of killing people. It's what it sounds like.
Now,
that's his character.
I think the more plausible explanation would be that incarceration has tempered him to be more calculated.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I mean, to me, it sounds like they mellowed him out really dramatically because he's not really that bad in the third one.
But incarceration will do that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but incarceration will also make you psychotic.
Well, it depends. It depends. Like with Baby was tortured. She was tormented and taunted by the prison guard and being locked in a hole. Yeah, that really amped her. That amped her mentality up quite a bit. Whereas with Otis, he probably didn't even see the hole. He was doing his time and then he got broke out. So yeah, there's two things going on. They had something different going on both ends, where Otis was a little bit more calmer, like Tim said, whereas with Baby, she was being tormented by a prison guard. She was going through a lot of things, so that's what made her snap.
Well, the other thing is Otis is Otis. He is the same all the time throughout the first 2 movies.
Yeah, he's more sane.
Yeah, Baby is fucking bipolar or split personality, one of the two. So she would be more susceptible to snapping while in prison, whereas Otis, the time spent alone thinking mellowed him out and made him more tactful and calculating.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but until we talk about this third guy.
Yeah, enter the third guy. Foxy, Winslow Foxworth Coltrane, played by one of my top 10 or top 15 horror movie actors, Richard Brake.
This guy was good.
Yeah, Richard Brake
hit the fucking jackpot.
And I've seen him in quite a few good movies. I've seen him he was in Doom. Yeah, not a lot of people were keen about Doom. He was in Doom. He had a brief role in Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. He was in Hannibal Rising. He was in the movie 31. He played Doomhead in 31. He was in a lot of movies. He was in Kingsman: The Secret Service. He was also in a lot of TV shows too. But yeah, this dude, I like this dude.
In Kingsman,
this guy,
was he the butler guy?
He was the interrogator, from what it says.
I gotta say, the Wolf guy, I'm telling you what, he fit perfect. I mean, if Captain Spartan was still alive, and sorry, Captain Spartan, we love you and all, but this guy took your role fucking to the core.
Actually, I gotta say this.
Hold on. He was calm, and you couldn't tell if he was psychotic or what. This guy, fucking straight shooter, didn't give a fuck. You fucked your shit up quicker than he fucking could in a handbasket.
Well, here's my opinion on the whole thing. I believe, and it seems like roles were mixed around here. Okay, Baby had a mixture of herself and Otis. The bipolar, split personality thing going on. I think Bill Moseley took a presence of Sid Haig and he put that Captain Spaulding in there for Otis, so he felt more of a Otis / Captain Spaulding kind of thing, because he was a little more mellow, he was a little bit more well balanced.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I guess.
Whereas with Wolf, he had
This
that
guy-
Otis. He felt more of an Otis. He had an Otis presence to him.
Oh yeah, definitely, because that guy, you walks in everywhere with the fucking shotgun.
Yep.
And I
So
loved how, and that's what got my attention. I was like, Otis just seemed too mellow. I was like, I couldn't understand it, and now it makes sense. That Otis is going to be pretty much the substitute of Spald, and this guy is going to be the fucking next Otis.
yeah, he's the Spaulding. Then you got Richard Brake, his character. He's the Otis of it, and of course, Baby is Baby. So 3 from Hell. You have your 3 from Hell, even though Spaulding isn't there. You know, Spaulding's dead, but I like how, and I don't know if that's where Rob Zombie was going in that direction. That's my take on it.
I think that's where he was going, because if you honestly think about it, there was no Tutti fucking Fruity. But the thing about it is, where I loved it when Bill Moseley says, "You was gone for 10 fucking minutes. Now we gotta leave this fucking place because you can't control your fucking self. Now we gotta fucking go to Mexico." I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, because her psychiatrist said she ended up killing somebody, and that's when he said
Ice
it.
Machine,
Yep.
of all fucking places, like the second.
And of course,
And it's like, and I just found it kind of funny. And okay, I gotta downplay this, but a fucking midget saving every fucking body, really?
I know, and
A
I
fucking midget fucking ruins it for everybody.
what's his
It's
name?
like,
His name is Pancho Mahler. Hey, I don't see a
Yeah.
Wikipedia for him, but yeah, he's a dwarf. You got this character, you know this.
A midget saves the fucking trio of every fucking thing. A fucking midget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the thing I gotta say is the cartel. It was a disaster for the cartel. I gotta say the cartel was a disaster.
I forgot what the hell they called them. I think they were like the devil something.
Dark Satans or
The Dark
whatever the
Satans,
fuck-
yeah.
The cartel was fucked up beyond recognition.
Yeah,
The
you
reason
got this
why
fucking cartel type
reason-
group coming in.
I wouldn't even call it a cartel, because for one, a cartel has hundreds of fucking members.
Well, cartel's
This-
more
this-
drug related. They're not
Yeah.
not into that kind of thing.
Yeah, this was pretty much a retaliation of a gang that out the fucking hunt because Daddy got killed. Okay, which we don't even know the end story of that, because if you watch the beginning of it, Rondo doesn't even remember fucking everything.
Yeah.
So something happened between that and that scene and somewhere else. So, but Aquarius, okay, yeah, he's a good actor. Great, you put him in there, but come on, man. Use
Yeah.
somebody a lot fucking stronger than just that little wimpy dimpy sizable 20 to 15 to 20 people. Come on, man.
Yeah, because to
You
me,
guys really
there's
bad at- that's the only thing that killed me in the
there's a great amount of plot holes in this movie, and the one plot hole that gets me is the character Rondo. Like, okay, how is he in the same prison with the same guy he fucking went and picked up for fucking Wydell?
and doesn't remember him.
Yeah, I know. And Otis is like, you may not remember me, but I sure as hell remember you.
Exactly.
And it's
Like, I don't remember you.
now keep in mind, this film takes place several years after. Now, he may not. Well, here's my thing, and this is where the plot hole comes in. If you remember back with Rejects, Rondo was the one who gathered up Baby, and
Right.
DDD's character rounded up Otis. So maybe they didn't meet at one point, or maybe when they were gathering them all up for the truck, they saw them.
Yeah, at the truck, Rondo saw Otis.
Yeah.
because they all had to take him outside eventually.
Or maybe Rondo didn't take notice to him, but Otis took notice to him.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I don't know, but there's a lot more to the plot hole why he got arrested, but you didn't see DDP.
Yeah. And the
That's what I
second,
think they might,
let's see. I want to see. I had the second plot hole in my head. I can't fucking think of it now. God damn it.
But the thing about it is, are they going to go deeper to South America now? Are they going to go to Argentina? Are they going to go to Brazil? I mean, that'd be kind of a nice place. Go to Brazil.
Oh, the second plot hole for me is where this half brother comes in, Wolf. He comes in out of nowhere.
Name a character after Wolf.
Yeah, no. And he didn't do no Wolfie style. Well, he did some Wolfie style in there. That was.
Yeah, he did do Wolfie style. I gotta say. He did do Wolfie style.
There's a reason to use Wolfie style. His alias is Wolf. He got some Wolfie style on in that movie. Oh, he did. But I'm like, where did this character come from? Like, okay, who is this guy? Oh, he's your half brother. What's the backstory behind him? Because we figure, okay, there's some brothers or half brothers that were in the first movie, or maybe in the second movie that were killed off. But who's this random guy?
But I also remember Firefly, the mother Firefly, had 17 counts of prostitution.
Yeah, true. But that's prostitution. That doesn't say anything about her birthing
somebody.
And well, the thing is, she would have had a bunch of kids, and they would have all been in that house with them.
Yeah, true.
Because mind you, going back to corpses, there was 2 that were maybe killed out of a possible, let's say, about 7 people in the house. Right. And Grandpa Hugo, he wasn't in Rejects because the character, well, the actor who played him, he died right after. Yeah, he died right after. So he wasn't in Rejects. So there's a lot of plot holing going on with these movies, with characters being added and characters disappearing. And this one's a great one because this guy, half brother to Otis, and he's got that psychotic feel that Otis has. Yeah. And in this movie, Otis has that Spaulding feel where he's more balanced. He's psychotic, but he's a little bit more down to earth. And of course, at one point, they get Baby back, and he's like, oh, let's just kill the whole fucking lot of them, just off everybody, basically.
Yeah, the beginning of this whole movie, it took too fucking long. It took way too long to get the prison. The whole prison thing took way too long in my point.
Well, I think they needed a reason to explore a little bit what happened right after the events of Rejects. And I think with the prison thing with Baby, I think they wanted a reason or some kind of plot to drive Baby Firefly, make her more psychotic. I think that's where they wanted to go. They wanted to emphasize that character. They wanted to make something more with the character. They wanted to give her a more of a drive, a more psychotic drive for the film, for certain scenes. Now, what's weird is the first half of the movie, she is very well, this goes back to what Tim was saying with her being bipolar. She was very psychotic the first half of the movie. The second half of the movie, she started calming down a little bit. She was starting to relax. And I think she was even a little scared at one point in the movie where the Devil's Hand, or whatever the fuck the group was called, was coming in. She was a little worrisome, but she knew what to do. They were going in for the attack. And after seeing the movie, I gave it a very tasteful review on my hands. Now, if I look at the reception of it, it's got a 50% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, going back to Devil's Rejects still holds an approval rating of 53%. Now, nowadays, I don't go by what these review sites go by, because they're all full of shit. I see a movie, I think it's good, Rotten Tomatoes or all these other sites, they give them bad reviews. It's like, oh, it's not worthy of watching. It's not that great of a movie. Bullshit. I fucking enjoyed it. Do I expect you all to enjoy it? No. I'm like, I don't go by what their ratings are, but it's a half and half. Even RogerEbert.com, a film critic on there, he awarded the film 4 out of 4 stars, calling it Rob Zombie's most earnest and laid-back nightmare yet. However, Comics Beat reviewer Edward Douglas called the film easily the worst movie of the year. Me, I'm in between that. When I watched the movie, and I told you afterward, and I even said in my own review on Facebook, I said this feels like a copy and paste of The Devil's Rejects. And going...
I'm going to say they tried to do The Devil's Rejects too, with a different character, but...
Because I was expecting a little something different. Now, it was different. It was quite different for it being once again, an American horror film. This one, it didn't really have that gritty effect that The Devil's Rejects had. Like, each film had its own tone set for it. Like I said before, the first one had a grindhouse feel to it. The second one was very gritty. This one, it feels like just a regular thriller kind of movie.
There was no horror to this one.
There was no horror development whatsoever. It just felt like it was a rehash of The Devil's Rejects. Beginning.
I wouldn't even call it even that close because it's pretty much a murder/thriller.
Because the beginning of the movie, where you see the incarceration of all 3 characters, it feels like the opening to The Devil's Rejects, where you got the state troopers going in, shooting up the house, and they arrest one of them, and this and that. And it has that feeling to it, even though they're being incarcerated. It has that feeling to it, like, okay, now I'm sensing something. And then of course, you meet the half brother a little bit into the movie. He helps free Otis, and then they hold this family and their friends hostage. They say, "Free baby, bring baby to us," that kind of thing. When it gets to that part where they're in the warden's house, that scene is kind of like a rehash of the scene from the motel from The Devil's Rejects. And of course,
this time they had a clown in there.
Yeah, that was something else. This fucking actor comes in, he's a clown, and Otis is like, "If you make me laugh, I'll let you go."
Yeah.
And they started getting boring with it, and then the clown ended up pissing himself, and they started laughing. He's like, "That was the..." Yep.
To hell. Boom.
Ends up shooting him anyway. Because if you remember in Rejects, out of that motel scene, there was a total of 5 people who died. There was the 4 in the room, then there was the roadie, who ended up knocking on the door, and baby answered the door, and they shot him right on sight. So in both films, there's a total of 5 victims in a certain setting. In Rejects, it was the motel room. In 3 from Hell, it was the warden's home. So it had that same appeal, that same feel. Everybody ended up dying anyway, in some way. Everybody ended up dying. And then, of course, the 3 end up on the road again. They're evading the police, trying to figure out where to go to lay low. So where do they go? South of the border. So they go south of the border. Yeah. Well,
I'm thinking is what they should do if they're going to make it up. And this is just a throw out here in a wild blow. Is they need to make it tougher if they're gonna kill off all these characters, which I'm pretty sure they're not. Anytime they need to have a stronger opponent. Really, I mean, the opponent, the cartel thing, or if you even want to call them a cartel. I'm just gonna say the gang, like MSM.
Well, I think at this point their strongest opponent out of these three was Sheriff Wydell. He was the strongest opponent.
The second one, not the first one.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Sheriff Wydell. Because with his character and his psychological being, it really had a very effective twist on that movie. And he was a strong threat to them. I mean, of course, it took Tiny to come in out of nowhere and take them out, but still, he was their greatest opponent. Whereas this one, you got this quote-unquote Mexican cartel, the cartel coming in. It's not even the cartel, but, they're hired on to avenge the one guy's, father's death.
I gotta say, Aquarius could have been a better role because he actually, at one point, I thought that guy was the strongest out of all of them, to be honest, with the whole 20 other guys. Because if it was me and I knew everybody fucking dead, I would have shot that little midget. No offense to y'all out there that there's shit. But if you're gonna eliminate people and you're a cartel, you eliminate everybody. Yep. I don't care what you did, but that guy was not in a cartel material because I would have shot that little. He would not. And then, of course, Ernest might not have survived. But that's if you really wanted to make it, But then near the end of it, Aquarius wasn't that strong. He was a little sissy.
Well, going back to different changes with the movies, like similarities. We already got them fleeing to Mexico, whereas in Devil's Rejects, Spaulding, or his name was Cutter, he ends up calling his quote-unquote either his half-brother or his brother Charlie. So we got similarities, Charlie was his brother, half-brother. In this movie, Wolf is Otis's half-brother. So you got some similarities right there. You feel like the FBI or CIA would have been utilized. I know. Because they can go, I think they can cross borders, I think that's how they work.
Yep.
So they cross the border and they take shelter at this motel, as I said, they're celebrating Day of the Dead down in Mexico. So this is their base where they hole up in, whereas like in the Rejects they had Charlie's base. Now, the person after them this time with the vendetta, in Rejects, it was Sheriff Wydell. This one is the son of Rondo, and he gathers up his crew, and they go and they raid the motel, just as where in Rejects you had Wydell with Rondo and his buddy, pretty much raid the scene and try to take over, try to take them out. And it ends up in a showdown at the end, where Baby's, in trouble. I don't want to say trouble, but they're captured. Her and Wolf are captured and tied up, leading Otis to come in, for the final showdown against Aquarius's men. Whereas it's like at the end of Rejects, you got Wydell chasing Baby through, the field and all that, chasing her through the barn and stuff. So there's a lot of comparable similarities between these two movies. And that's where I felt it's like a rehash of The Devil's Rejects. There's a lot of scenes that you can actually compare to the previous film. Even though they're not exactly the same, it has that feeling to it. And I was expecting something new, something a little bit different than something that's about the same, but that's what I got out of this movie, was the same appeal. The music was still pretty good as well.
There wasn't that much music in this.
Yeah, they had very few, but there was some pretty decent scenes in there too. Of course, with Bill Moseley's dialogue deliver is still just as good. Richard Brake, he did a pretty good job. His psychotic role in that movie was pretty decent.
I agree. He did really good, actually.
I just feel with my personal opinion with Three from Hell, it shouldn't have been made, but I guess some people are like, I'm glad it was made. You know, one last hurrah from Sid Haig in the role of Captain Spaulding. Even though there was no Captain Spaulding, you know, you could tell he was very sick when he made that film. It shouldn't have been made, but, you know, his character was killed off early in the film. You know, they gave somebody else, you know, a chance. And, of course, the feeling, the presence of Spaulding, you can see that with Otis's character. And, of course, with Wolf, you know, the character of Wolf had that feeling, that presence of Otis. So the roles were not the roles per se, but the presence of the roles were, you know, they were mixed around.
Wolf, you turned into an asshole.
Pretty much. Of course, he ain't here. He's never watching, but it's all right.
He's watching.
Nah, he's not in here. There's nobody in here. The only one watching is Tom. He's over on Twitch. Tom's the only one watching,
but still, though, it came out too fair. Like I said, I gave it a solid 3 to 3 because of the character. Everything else, it wasn't be that damn high. But what they need to do is have more enemies, more stronger enemies, Wardell. And then people would wake up and say, oh, that's a sick.
Well, I wouldn't say more, because when it comes to a movie like this, more isn't actually better. It makes it worse, you know, because you got a lot to tune into, you know. That's like when you look at movies like Spider-Man. Like, look at Spider-Man 3. Not only was the story poor on that movie, but, you know, there was a lot going on. Just like with a horror movie like this, if you add a lot to it, there's a lot that you gotta take in, you know, especially if you're trying to work on character development and have them work in there the way you want them to work. There's just too much to focus on. You gotta have very little or just enough. Like the story of, okay, you got this son of this bounty hunter from the second movie who, you know, barely had a part, but, you know, you know he's there. You know, you got the son who's, okay, I want blood. You know, let me know if anybody sees him. I want to be the first to know. And then, of course, what happens the very next day? Here comes the devil's hand, or whatever the fuck, you know? I forgot what the hell they call, but it just felt very short to me. It felt... I guess I want to say it felt kind of empty to me. It was entertaining. It had moments that made it entertaining, and some moments that I enjoyed, but it just felt too short for me. It was under the radar.
I would say make sure it's a badass motorcycle as the next.
I mean, it was made on a budget of $3 million, and so far it brought in $2.24 million. So, I guess Rob, he's glad he didn't really. Well, he only released it in select theaters. There was only select nights where he released the film. It was strictly going to be a direct-to-DVD. That's what it was going to be, and of course, it was the production company was Lionsgate. What kind of threw me off when I first heard that the movie was being produced, that was being made, Saban Films had their hands in this too. And Saban Films, they usually work on anime stuff and live action anime stuff. So Saban had a license for Beetleborgs, Mighty Morphin Power, well, any of the Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles and X Mutation. This is a lot of stuff back in the 90s. Cubics, VR Troopers, Shinzo. I saw my Pet Monster, yeah, Power Rangers, Sonic X, Digimon. I think I saw something in here for Yu-Gi-Oh! But yeah, the company that worked with the Power Rangers franchise and all, they worked with Lionsgate on this.
My whole childhood.
It's mine too. The people behind Power Rangers worked on this movie. That's what kind of threw me off at the beginning. I was like, Saban Films. I was like,
When you started saying things like Beetleborgs and all that and VR Troopers, I'm like, I remember all of
yup. That's an interesting thing right there. It's very interesting. Let's see, what's this? Spook Show International also worked on it too. They don't even have a page though. But you got 3 production companies working on this film. And I don't know. I mean, it's very hard for me to even decipher that right now. But I don't even remember. Like I've seen it once, and it was like a month ago when it came out. I don't remember there being a whole lot of gore to it either. I mean, it had some pretty good violent. It has some pretty good violent scenes, but I don't even remember seeing a whole lot of gore. You know, it's usually like people being shot.
To me, it sounds like you're pretty much saying same movie, different location.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's all it is. You know, there's some elements to like. I'm pretty sure if you watch it, you're gonna probably agree. You're gonna see some like what I was talking about, like similarities. Like it's not the exact same thing, but you can definitely see some similarities with this one. You know, comparing it to The Devil's Rejects. Now, even though to a lot of people, Rejects is a better sequel, a better film of the trio, to me, like when it comes to the horror genre, Corpses is my favorite. But out of these 3, I definitely would lean a little bit more toward Devil's Rejects because it was very strong with the character development. The soundtrack was great. The acting was great. Everything was pretty much. It was top tier for the 3, and 3 from Hell is the bottom of the barrel for the trio. You know, the trilogy of the franchise. And I know Rob Zombie. I love Rob Zombie. Not just his music, but his love for horror, his style of filming. Everything that he does on the screen, you know, whether it's a music video or a movie, I love him for it. You know, he has that style and that's a very unique style to have for a director. And this movie, I know he wanted to try to bring one last one in, especially with Sid Haig, and Sid Haig was the staple of the franchise. You know, his character Captain Spaulding. Just him alone was the staple for this trilogy, followed by, Bill Moseley. Bill Moseley, he's been in a lot of movies. Actually, if you don't know it, Bill Moseley's 67 years old. He's old. He was in a lot of movies, and I've seen a lot of these movies. Like, okay, he was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. He was Chop Top. His first movie was Endangered Species. I gotta look that up. That's got Robert Urich and Jo Beth Williams in it. Apparently he had a scene in The Blob, the remake The Blob. I've seen him. Here's another reference. Pink Cadillac. Clint Eastwood's Pink Cadillac. He was in that movie. Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. He was in The First Power. I gotta watch that movie again. That's Lou Diamond Phillips. That's a good movie too. He was the federal marshal in Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
Childhood.
Yep. He was also in the movie Army of Darkness. He was the Deadite captain. I do remember that.
Those are good movies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I completely forgot. And I played this movie a couple months ago. Night of the Living Dead. He was Johnny. He was the boy Johnny in Night of the Living Dead. The remake. I forgot all about that.
I've seen the remake.
That one's got Tony Todd in it.
Like, I've seen the original several times. I don't know if I've seen the remake.
Yeah, the color remake came out in 1990. It's got Tony Todd in it. It's basically the same movie. It's a remake, but there's some subtle differences to it. But I've seen him in those. I have to go
watch that.
Yeah, it's really good. You can actually find that on Facebook if you were like streaming or whatever. He was in the movie The Getaway. That's got it's like Alec Baldwin's in there and Kim Basinger. I can never pronounce that name. It's either Basinger or Basinger.
I'm gonna watch.
There you go. Grindhouse. When the Grindhouse movies came out, he was in the trailer for Werewolf Woman of the SS. Looks like he had a role. He had a part in Rob Zombie's Halloween. Alone in the Dark 2. The Haunted World of El Superbeasto. He was Otis in that. He was in the sequel, 2001 Maniacs, Field of Screams. He was in a lot of horror movies. A lot of these movies. Texas Chainsaw 3D. He was in there. He was in Night of the Living Dead Origins 3D. Shed of the Dead. I keep hearing about that movie. British comedy horror. Shed of the Dead. Uncle Grandpa. Oh, that was an animated television series. Huh, I heard of that. So he was.
That thing's terrible.
I bet. It looks terrible. In Search of Darkness. I gotta find that movie. It's a documentary. I keep hearing so much about it. I gotta find it. But yeah, he is another horror legend right there. You know, Bill Moseley. Sherry Moon. Oh, I forgot how old she was. 49 years old.
I'd still hit that.
That's a hot piece of ass. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm 33. Yeah, I definitely tapped that shit.
Right.
And I said earlier, her tits were in one of the movies, too. Her tits and ass. It was in Devil's Rejects. At the end, where Rondo was had her at gunpoint and told her to get out of the bathtub, and she got up, and you saw it.
Oh, yeah.
She was pretty much in, I guess, all of Rob Zombie's movies. Well, of course, you know, she is his wife. You know, she was in House of Thousand Corpses. She was in the music videos for Living Dead Girl and Super Beast. She was in the movie Toolbox Murders. I briefly saw that at one time. There's some other mentions of her, too. She was in Halloween 1 and 2 as Deborah Myers. Haunted World of El Superbeasto. She was in The Lords of Salem. We could talk about that another time. That was a very interesting movie. The Lords of Salem. She was in 31. 31 was pretty good. That one also has Richard Brake in it. And of course, 3 from Hell. So, anyway, covering those 3 movies, what you guys take on all 3 of them?
Yeah. This third one didn't really impress me that much, but the first 2, yeah.
From what I've heard, I'm pretty sure it's Corpses, then Devil's Rejects, and then the third one probably just.
Yeah, I already gave my feel on the third one. Like, if I had to rate it, I would probably give it a 2.5 or 3 out of 5. Whereas with Rejects, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5, and Corpses, of course, even though it falls a little bit short, but it's still one of my favorites, I give that a 4 out of 5.
Thousand Corpses, I give it a 3.5. Devil Rejects, a solid 4.5. 3 from Hell, about.
Yeah.
See, I'd have to go Corpses 4.5 and Rejects 4.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's different when it comes to the rating. Yeah, it's for the first 2, you know, it's a teeter-totter, you know. There's a fan base that likes Corpses more than they like Rejects. And that's fine, yeah. Just like I said, you know, when it comes to horror, I like Corpses better because of the feel, the tone, with the overall tone and atmosphere of the movie. Whereas if I want a good thriller / horror or gangster horror type movie, you know, Rejects is the go-to for me. So
But, I mean, at least there's only 3 of them to go over. Could you imagine if we tried to go over the Of the Living Dead movie?
Oh, Jesus Christ. We'd be here all night. So, to anybody out there who's been with us for the last, God, 3.5, almost 4 hours talking about this. Holy shit. We could watch 2 of those movies, maybe all 3 of them in one sitting.
Right.
So to anybody out there watching, God, thank you for sticking with us this whole time streaming this. We went into debt with all 3 of these movies. We deciphered them and all. Like, what's your guys' take? If you've seen any of these movies, let us know on our Facebook page, facebook.com/arrowencoded. Don't try to come to us on Twitter. We are no longer on Twitter. I will actually, let me actually explain that a little bit. So, recently, our first Twitter feed, ArrowOfficial17, that got suspended about 3 months ago because I was a little opinionated with CNN about something on there.
CNN.
Yeah.
Justifiably.
I made a simple statement, and it was a fact. Everybody can agree it was a fact. It was about Hillary Clinton.
I was opinionated, in fact.
Yeah. And what I stated, somebody had reported it, and of course, our first Twitter got flagged and suspended. So I was like, okay, I'll just make another one. That's fine. So I made another account, had everything up and running, I had all my followers, I had all our followers and everything. It was AirOfficial19. The site had been up for a month. And then a few days ago, I wake up and my uncle's like, hey, did you hop off of Twitter? I'm like, no, I'm still on Twitter, as far as I know. Mind you, I'm waking up and I'm getting ready to go to work this evening, I think. I forgot what it was, like Thursday or Friday. And I go to check Twitter, and all my followers and followings were at 0. I'm like, okay, is Twitter having a fucking seizure or something? What's going on here? Come to find out, my Twitter is suspended. And I'm like, there's no tweets on here for anybody to report on that being, like against terms of services. I didn't piss anybody off. I didn't make any lewd comments or anything on any page. It was just suspended. And it pissed me off. So I was like, you know what? Fuck Twitter. I'm boycotting Twitter. And I even took it to Facebook and I said, you know what? We are no longer associating posting on or doing anything with Twitter. And I even made it clear, I don't speak for everybody in the group. If Tom or Empire or anybody wants to stay on Twitter, that's them. I'm not saying everybody get off Twitter. Everybody's different, and I don't speak for everybody. But I'm like, as for me, and I kind of miss it, because I get a lot of my news reports and all from there, and I enjoy posting on there and tweeting out, but right now, having 2 Twitter accounts shut down. One of them, it was for a reasonable cause, The second one being suspended for no reason. No reason at all. Nothing was reported. I got no emails. I filed an appeal, and they were like, nope, your account is suspended, and it's going to stay locked. I was like, okay, well, fuck you all then. Boycotting Twitter, Facebook. I mean, I know people hate using Facebook for whatever reason, but that's where all of our updates and all are going to be from now on, is on Facebook. And if people don't get any updates, then I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'll try to get our updates out to you somehow. We'll try our damnedest to let you all know when we go live and what we're talking about. But from here on out, as far as I'm concerned, fuck Twitter. Twitter fucked me over this one time. I don't know why. Sometime within the 8-hour period that I was sleeping, they decided to fucking suspend my account. So I was like, nope, fuck them. We were no longer associating with Twitter. So if you guys need updates on anything at all in the future streams, whatever, post anything at all, follow us on Facebook.com/arrowencoded. And of course, our streams are getting pre-uploaded to our YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, Arrow Entertainment. And if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to follow us over on twitch.tv/arrow with a name, our main streaming channel. Do you guys got anything to say before we head on out?
No, but we will see you next.
Bet you liking.
Watch more movies and just give the ones that you think, just give them a chance. You might like it.
Exactly, that's what we all did. This is just with these 3 movies alone. And of course, tomorrow sometime I should be getting with Cypher. We're going to be doing a video, our Edgar Allan Poe video finally. I think we're going to have Wolf with us. I'm not sure. We will see. You guys will definitely see that video either up this week or next week in time for Halloween. And I think we're going to do something else with Tom's chair. We will let you know, because we were on here the other day. If you haven't seen that stream, it's from yesterday. It's Through the Doorway, where we went into a little bit more deeper research on Tom's chair, so we got to get together with him on that. Tom, I don't know if you want to hop in Discord after this and we can talk about that or not. I'll be here with the guys for a few more minutes. And everybody else, have a good night. Check out some horror movies on them channels, AMC, Horror Fest and all, and there's even a Halloween marathon going on IFC right now.
Hulu as well.
Yep, that one, or Shudder. I'd watch movies on Shudder too. $5 a month, can't beat that. Y'all have a good night, watch some horror movies, and we'll catch you all later.